endocrine glands. That means glands that push out stuff generally, and widely distributed by either the problem. A lot of stuff. Kind of funny today. I noticed some numbers. Hello, everyone. This is another. Hello, everyone. This is another episode, number 140 of the Love Your Liver live stream. It's kind of funny today. I noticed some numbers. Not that I'm like crazy into the whole numerology thing, but we are at episode 140, and we just passed 7,000 subscribers. So kind of cool. Bunch of 7 type numbers. Whatever. If it's supposed to happen, it happens. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, I am Dr. Garret Smith, also known as the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts. And we go over a lot of stuff related to health and what I call toxic bile theory and the root causes of your chronic diseases and how they all relate to various toxicities and deficiencies, and how your toxic bile is leaking into your bloodstream, and that is what is causing you to suffer. And no one else talks about this, and that's why so many people don't get results. Or what a lot of people do is they suppress their problems with either natural or conventional pharmaceutical things, and then they wonder why either the problem comes back or the problem eventually gets worse or new problems show up. Because nothing about, even with a lot of alternative medicine, people don't realize they're actually just suppressing the problem. So we're going to go in. One of my favorite supplements is lactoferrin. We're going to go over what it is. We're going to go over how it connects to toxic bile theory. We're going to go over how it connects to the top 10 causes of death in the United States, as recorded in, I think it was 2020, maybe 2021. We'll see that link when we get there. And then kind of like the magnesium show, and we'll talk about, for those of you who have questions about how to use it, how to go about it first. If you decide, let's say you're hearing me talk about it and you're going, oh, I got to get some of this stuff. Well, first of all, we did sell out of it for a while because it is one of our most popular products, probably second to the magnesium lotion now, because we sold out of it for a while. And there is even some lactoferrin in the magnesium lotion. I put a little bit of it in there because it is magical stuff. You can look up lactoferrin in topical or transdermal approaches, and it helps with skin things. So it helps with everything we talk about here. But yeah, we have it back now. We have plenty of it. We're already ordering more from France. If you didn't know about the stuff we sell, it's on the website. Joe, if you want to put the link up here, we get our lactoferrin. How do we do things differently? We get our lactoferrin from France. It is from, we carefully use our wording here. It is from fresh milk, as in the milk is not cooked, because cooking lactoferrin damages it. It denatures the protein. It changes the protein into something that it wasn't like to begin with. So we get fresh milk. We're not going to use that word that rhymes with gnaw or caw. You know, we don't use that word because it just doesn't help with the FDA in this country, because they don't like that word when you talk about milk. It is from cow's milk, and it is spray dried, not heat dried, and it's not a byproduct of whey from cheese making. Most places are using byproducts of whey from cheese making, and so there's even more processing in it. So they process it as cheese, and then they take the whey off. They process that to get the lactoferrin out of it, and then they heat dry it. We don't do any of these things, and what we have heard over the years that I've been using this, and people have tried different brands to, you know, see if they can get it less expensively and all that stuff. Other brands tend to be about 30% to 50% as potent as ours. It just doesn't, it works. It just doesn't work as well. So I'm going to be honest with you. I spent a lot of time figuring out which one to buy, and getting it from France is a pain in the butt, but it's worth it. And you'll see in these disease studies and how it connects to toxic bile theory why it's worth getting good stuff. So let's head into it. Let me find my first link. Okay, here we go. So we're going to go over just some basics on what lactoferrin is. And let me pull up my chat. There it is. So here's this first link. So first, we're just going to go over what lactoferrin is. Now, lactoferrin, let me just read this, and then I'll go over some more details. Lactoferrin, existing widely in human and mammalian, as in mammals, milk it's in many more fluids than that. It's not just a milk protein. Is a multifunctional glycoprotein with many functions such as immune regulation, anti-inflammation, antibacterial, antiviral, and antioxidant. These extensive functions largely attribute to its ability to chelate iron, grab onto iron, claw it, and interfere with the cellular receptors of pathogenic microorganisms and their hosts. Moreover, it is non-toxic and has good compatibility with other supplements. Thus, lactoferrin has been widely used in food nutrition, drug carriers, biotechnology, and feed development. Although lactoferrin has been continuously explored and studied. Oh yeah, sorry, Joe wants me to narrow the screen. Let me do this. Sorry, I could have kept reading and done this, but I have a one-track mind, and so if I need to do something, I'm just going to do it. Why is this not grabbing onto the corner? Oh, whatever. Okay. Although it's been continuously explored and studied, a more comprehensive and systematic compendium is still required. So first, lactoferrin is in every single, this changed the sharing. Lactoferrin is in every single fluid of your body. It's in your blood, it's in your urine, it's in your tears, it's in your sweat, it's in semen, it's in every fluid in your body. Kind of probably important, right? Let me just cover a couple of things in here. So one of the things, a funny trend that came about for a while was camel milk. Anybody remember the camel milk fad? Do you know why camel milk and colostrum? You remember the colostrum fad? These things have been around a while. What do I believe is the main beneficial thing that's in these things? Well, colostrum has the highest concentration of lactoferrin of all milk. What's the issue with colostrum? Well, for those of you who have ever bought like raw colostrum, which I have from a dairy co-op that I was involved in way back in naturopathic medical school, it's yellow. It is usually yellow. If you freeze it, it's super yellow. Gosh, what might we here in the toxic bile theory world think is probably high in colostrum if it's yellow milk? Probably vitamin A. So if it's really high in vitamin A, but it's also high in lactoferrin, I want you to see that people felt the studies on colostrum looked good, and people often improved certain things on colostrum. If you're like me, I took colostrum, I didn't notice a dang thing. But you have to think about it. They're even with the lactoferrin in there and the vitamin A, people were still making improvements. So lactoferrin must be pretty potent, right? Dairy cow lactoferrin, not just dairy, because dairy just means animal milk, right? Cow lactoferrin is about, from what I've read, 60% similar to human lactoferrin. In terms of molecular structure, it's about 60% similar. Now, when we talk about camel milk is 90% similar to human milk. Camel lactoferrin is 90% similar to human lactoferrin. And camels put a ton of lactoferrin into their milk. I think they put even more than cows do. So why might there have been a camel milk fad? Because of the lactoferrin in it. Hopefully this makes sense. These are the two things that those would share. So you're supplementing your own lactoferrin production. And we'll get to see in a paper later where they showed that lactoferrin, like a lack of lactoferrin in babies, resulted in like depression in mice babies, resulted in depressive behaviors later in their life. This is a really important molecule. So let me go over this. So I'm not worried about, so you guys know about me and viruses and the whole antioxidant theory. First of all, viruses are markers of toxicity, nothing more. So if we read in here about antipathogens, some guy was like on Twitter was like, well, you didn't dispute you put a quote about lactoferrin that said it was antiviral, and I don't believe in viruses. And I was like, dude, I'm quoting the science about it. It doesn't mean, here's something you guys should try to do. Just because something's out there that doesn't quite agree with everything you think doesn't mean you have to throw away the entire you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There can be good things, and maybe you don't agree with them on everything. There's people watching this right now who are like, I don't agree with Dr. Smith on this, but maybe he's mostly right. Okay, cool. Fine. You'll probably find I'm right later, but that's another thing. So if you see antioxidant, and I'm like, well, antioxidants tend to slow down your detox system, and they're saying, well, lactoferrin's an antioxidant, selenium's an antioxidant. I don't care. As you'll see later, I'll show research showing that lactoferrin speeds up the ALDH system, the aldehyde dehydrogenase system, which is an oxidative process that helps you detox aldehydes. So anyway, science is trying to explain this in their created narratives. That's what they do. They have their frameworks. They try to fit it into it. I have to find research that exists in their world. So just because it says something here that you might be like, well, Dr. Smith says that's not what we do, I've got to find the research, folks. Okay. So does it chelate iron? Yes. Do we talk about iron overload a lot here? Yes. Do we talk about, is there a whole episode of ferritin on a live stream here? Yes. Go watch that one. Learn about iron. Actually, while we're here, I didn't mention this. So there's the ferritin live stream, which you want to read and or watch. And then there's also the live streams number 53 and number 71, which are the basics of toxic bile theory. You want to watch those so you understand exactly what we're talking about. Once you understand toxic bile theory and you start to see what I'm about to go over in terms of lactoferrin, it will all make more sense. And for those of you who don't know, whenever I do a topic, we're going to be here a while. I don't think, for those of you who are rooting for a 5-hour live stream, I don't think that's going to happen, but you know, this is going to be a long one. So this stuff, lactoferrin, has been widely used in food nutrition. Do you guys hear about lactoferrin out there? Like, it's hard. I don't hear about it much. I don't even remember how I heard about it in the first place. I don't remember if it was somebody like in the vitamin A detox program or the Love Your Liver program as it is now, or it used to be the vitamin A and glyphosate detox program way back. Some of you remember that. I don't remember who told me about it. But as I learned about it, I was like, this stuff fits with everything we're doing. But I mean, feed development, yeah, you'll see. Gosh, when you learn about this stuff, you'll wonder why it's not everywhere. And then you might think, well, they're trying to not do nice things to people. So now we understand why the research looks amazing and the research calls it a miracle molecule, and yet nobody hears about it. Weird. It's almost like they don't want us to know about it. And here I am going against all the mainstream stuff, mainstream conventional and mainstream alternative, and I'm saying lactoferrin's amazing. You should see all this research. So, and it's been continuously explored and studied. Oh, but more is needed. Okay, well, let's just go. Let's go. So now we're going to go over how lactoferrin fits into toxic bile theory. I'm going to give you the super basic background of toxic bile theory. What is toxic bile theory? Your liver detoxes you. Your liver is a filter by definition. Anybody who says the liver is not a filter doesn't understand what a filter is. A filter takes something out of another thing. The liver is a sewage processing plant or a biotransformation plant. It turns certain compounds into other compounds. Okay. And your liver is a storage depot, a storage unit for toxins that it cannot process quick enough to get rid of them. This is what the liver does. Anyone who says the liver doesn't do these things doesn't know anything about the liver, and they're probably telling you to do toxic things to help your liver detox. Okay. The most important thing you can do to help your liver to detox is to stop putting toxins in your cake hole. That's the most important thing. It's not about trying to take herbs to speed up your liver. What are they doing to your liver? You ever, you think about spurring a horse? You ever think spurring a horse kind of the horse is like, I'm tired. And you're like, no, 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 go faster. We're going to keep spurring you. And then what happens to the horse eventually, if you spur it too long, it dies. So what do you think taking herbs for your liver does? If they're making your liver run faster. Think about that. Okay. So your liver, the way your liver gets rid of the toxins that it has stored and processed and filtered out of your blood is it puts it into bile. Therefore, by definition, your bile is the most toxic fluid in your body. By definition, it's how your liver gets rid of the sewage that has been processed. It dumps this into your bile ducts, which we'll talk about, and then that goes into your intestine, and then you want to poop it out. Long story short, your bile is so toxic that it eats holes in your liver cells, it eats holes in the bile ducts, it eats holes in your intestines, and if it goes the wrong way into your stomach, it eats holes in your stomach, and those are called ulcers. If it gets into your blood, which is what we're talking about, it goes to your kidneys, it starts ruining your kidneys. If your liver and your kidneys can't handle it, then it goes out of your skin and it causes damage to your skin on the way out. It eats away at your skin. This is eczema, this is psoriasis, dermatitis, it's all of it. That's your chronic disease. If it goes to your brain, depression, anxiety, all sorts of mental issues. So if we had something that in the research was shown to fix these things, that would be kind of important, wouldn't it? Makes sense? Might also be suppressed. So let's get into that now. Let me find, here we go. Let me try to remember to get the links early for Joe. Joe gets nervous if I don't put the links up early enough. Okay. So again, we're still kind of going over the basics, but role of lactoferrin and its receptors on biliary epithelium. Biliary, related to bile ducts. One of the biggest bases of toxic bile theory is that people will leak bile out of their bile ducts, which carry the bile. They're the very first thing other than the liver exposed to the bile. So the bile is like the freshest toxicity that it has. Burns holes in your bile ducts. Epithelium is like the layer on the inside. So think of it as the layer on the most inside of the bile duct tubes. It's the lining, if you will. Okay, it's also on the outside of the bile duct tubes, but just think of epithelium as on the outside of any tissue. But if the inside of that tissue has a hole, it's going to be on the inside too. Does that make sense? So there's like an inside and an outside of a pipe. So let's go. Let's just read this. Human lactoferrin is an iron-binding glycoprotein present at high concentrations in breast milk and colostrum. It is produced by many exocrine glands. That means glands that push out stuff generally. And widely distributed in a variety of body fluids, like I said. This protein has antimicrobial, immunomodulatory, so it modulates, controls the immune system, antioxidant and anti-cancer properties. Cancer's toxicity, if you didn't remember. Two important human, H, lactoferrin, LF, receptors have been identified. LDL receptor-related protein. LDL, the bad cholesterol. A low specificity receptor, and interleukin-1, a high specificity receptor. Specificity receptor. So, before I go into this part, cholangiocytes are bile duct cells. Okay? Bile duct cells. Now, if you wanted to repair holes in the bile ducts, you're missing parts of your bile ducts. What would fill in the holes? New bile duct cells. Also, when the body likes to fix things, it doesn't like to repair old, damaged stuff. It likes to make new stuff and fill it in. The body doesn't like to fix broken things like by fixing the broken part itself. It makes new stuff and it fills in the old broken part. Hopefully that makes sense. Yes, the body will fix a broken arm, but it's fixing it by making new tissue, not necessarily repairing the broken cells. It eats those up and gets rid of them. Okay? So when you think about fixing holes in your bile ducts, let's go over this. Our results show that mouse and human cholangiocytes express LF, lactoferrin, LRP1, and ITLN1 at a higher extent in cholangiocytes from bile duct ligation. They gave these animals cholestasis and primary biliary cirrhosis. This is the liver is basically turning into a raisin, and the bile ducts are not good either. So what they're saying is healthy bile ducts from normal mice and human bile ducts cells, they make more lactoferrin than sick bile duct cells and sick liver cells. You see the vicious cycle? You start damaging your liver. You start damaging your bile ducts. Lactoferrin is going to be what repairs the holes. But your liver and your bile ducts make less lactoferrin. Your liver's getting more toxic. The toxic bile makes more damage. The damaged liver cells and bile ducts can't make as many new bile duct cells to fix it. Do you see how this just goes? This is why the very first thing you must do is reduce the toxic load coming in. Don't try to make everything run faster. So, furthermore, the in vitro, so this is in a petri dish, addition of bovine lactoferrin, cow lactoferrin from milk, has a proliferative effect. It means it makes it reproduce more quickly, make more stuff, proliferate, right? Proliferative effect on human, so cow lactoferrin has a proliferative effect on a human bile duct cell line. The results support a proliferative role of human lactoferrin on the biliary epithelium. Okay, that's what we're talking about. This proliferative effect of human lactoferrin and bovine lactoferrin on cholangiocytes, bile duct cells, could be particularly relevant in human cholangiopathies. This is diseases of the bile ducts, such as primary biliary cirrhosis, characterized by cholangiocyte death and ductopenia. Penia is not enough or a reduction of. Like sarcopenia is like wasting away of muscle. Ductopenia, a wasting away of bile ducts. So if you can make more bile duct cells, cholangiocytes, with lactoferrin, you could fix replacing the dead cells and the missing cells. Does that make sense? So let's keep going. I need to make this one bigger. I know that. One of the things we talk about here, link, is bile. And many of the things we do as we make people less toxic and we get, so this is the balance. I'm going to try to make this simple so you guys can understand it. Those of you who are not in the Love Your Liver program and getting, corrected in your path by people who have been this way, done this before. Okay. Toxic bile is the cause of your health problems. Your bile was so toxic that it ate holes in the pathway for bile. Your health problems are caused by toxic bile leaking into your bloodstream and affecting everything it touches. And you are affected by your weak links, which could be from genetics. It could be from nutrition. It could be from the toxicity you were exposed to. Could be from previous, trauma to an area. Let's say blood flow is not good in an area and it gets stuck. It's kind of slow. There's all sorts of reasons why you could have, and then there's the bile acid recipe, and then there's how much you're actually leaking. So there's all sorts of things that can affect why you have a certain disease caused by toxic bile leaking, and somebody else has a totally what looks like unrelated disease, but they're both rooted in the same problem. So those of you who have not read, on the lactoferrin bottles we sell, there is a link to very detailed instructions on how to go up slowly in lactoferrin. This is very, very important that you go up slowly. Our stuff is really, really potent. Understand this. So the lactoferrin can help fix, I don't know why people don't catch this. And this is something I explain over and over. Lactoferrin can help to fix the leaky parts. where you're leaking bile into your system. But the entire time you are dumping bile. So it's kind of like picking a scab, right? If you keep picking that scab, it doesn't heal. It doesn't have a chance. You're constantly dumping bile every time you eat. So you're re-picking the scab in a certain way. You can't get away from that. Now, your bile is not going to be not toxic overnight. I mean, bile is always going to have a toxic nature to it, but we make it less toxic over time. So that bile, if you, let's say you started making more bile all of a sudden, which is something that lactoferrin does, I'm about to show you the research. Lactoferrin increases your bile production. Lactoferrin can help fix the damage that the bile causes. Lactoferrin also makes more bile. You see how these could like cause problems? It's like the toxic bile damages everything, and then it comes back up and it damages the liver, and then the liver slows down and you can't get the toxicity out, and then the toxic bile becomes even more toxic, and it's like this vicious cycle. So with lactoferrin, I'm going to just lay it out here. Some people start on lactoferrin and they are like, this is the best thing I've ever taken and I feel amazing, and I was able to go up in dose like super quick. And then let's say this is a guy and he tells his wife, oh, you got to get on this lactoferrin, and she takes the dose that he's taking and she is just wrecked for days. Think about the effect. Let's say lactoferrin in that guy, he mainly got the repair effect and not so much of the bile dumping effect. Whereas let's say his partner, his spouse, got a huge bile dump increase, and maybe she's more toxic, because I think women tend to be a bit more toxic. They just store it more in fat and they're just slower at getting rid of it. They don't make as much bile to get rid of it. It's just, ladies, it is what it is. Yes, biological sex is a thing, and there's differences between the sexes. So different people can get different effects. There are people out there who can't take more than 1/64 of a teaspoon or 1/32 of a teaspoon, and they stay there for months and months and months. And then there was me who, because I was testing it before I was going to sell it, I was up to 2 pills, and I made myself kind of suffer with significant allergies, which was one of my toxic bile dumping symptoms for like 6 months, because I didn't know about what I call the lactoferrin cold or the lactoferrin creep. So let me go show you this study. Understand that, yes, lactoferrin can fix the damage. Yes, lactoferrin is going to increase your bile acid production. And you have to go by your body's feedback as to whether you should be on that dose or a lower dose, or whether you can go up. And if you don't listen to your body, like I talk about in the detailed instructions that are linked on the product page and on the bottle, and anybody who comes back and they're like, I didn't see these instructions, I can't put them anywhere else. I can't make it any more obvious other than putting it on the label of the bottle and putting it on the product page. Okay? This is our stuff. But let me get into the bile acid production. I may save a little time here, but lactoferrin promotes bile acid metabolism and reduces hepatic, that's liver, cholesterol deposition by inhibiting the FXR receptor, the FXR-mediated entero, that's gut to liver hepatic axis. Lactoferrin controls the bile acid axis. Okay, let me go find this. Lactoferrin intervention significantly increased the serum high-density lipoprotein cholesterol level by 24.9%. HDL cholesterol, good cholesterol, went up by 25%. Wow. And decreased the liver, total cholesterol content by 26%. Gosh, do you think it was kicking that cholesterol out of the liver? Lactoferrin treatment pay attention. Lactoferrin treatment significantly increased the bile acid content per gram by 109.8%. the total amount of bile acid excretion by 153.5%, and conjugated bile acids by 87.6% in the feces, in the poop. Making more bile acid, pooping out more bile acid. But along the way, if you're still leaking bile, where do you think it's going? Where does the leaks go? They lead right into the blood. Okay? Furthermore, lactoferrin upregulated the expression of the hepatic liver sterol 12-alpha hydroxylase. This is a cytochrome gene. Oh, it upregulated a detox gene. We don't, this is what the body's supposed to do, which expresses important enzymes in the classical pathway of bile acid synthesis. That's how it makes more. And the bile acid-CoA amino acid N-acetyltransferase gene, which is responsible for the formation of conjugated bile acids, what attaches things like taurine and glycine to amino acids. To bile acids, to make bile salts. The FXR-mediated pathways in the entero-gut, hepatic liver, gut-to-liver axis, including FXR, fibroblast growth factor 15, and fibroblast growth factor receptor 4, were inhibited by lactoferrin. Conclusions. Lactoferrin ameliorated or made better hepatic liver cholesterol deposition in mice fed with a high-fat and high-cholesterol diet containing cholate. So they even added a bile acid in terms of cholate to it. They fed them a high-fat diet, a high-cholesterol diet, and they added cholate to it. Lactoferrin elevated the conjugated bile acid level, inhibited the ileum FXR and FXR-mediated enterohepatic axis, and increased bile acid synthesis and excretion. Increased bile acid synthesis and excretion. Let me help you understand this. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You think you want to push this really hard, really fast, you're going to kick your own butt. Okay? The toxic bile is the root cause of and the solution to your problems. As you fix the holes, the leaky holes, making more, as you get your bile less toxic, that's why less toxins in is the most important first step. As your body is able to repair those leaks, and as your liver gets healthier, you will make more bile. If you make more bile, think of it as a leaky faucet. Like, let's say the handle on your faucet is leaking. Every time you turn on the faucet, the handle is leaking water into the top of the sink. If you turn the faucet on higher, you leak more water. So think of that leaky faucet as the leaky bile going into your bloodstream. So if you turn up the bile production, if you turn up the faucet, you leak more bile into your bloodstream. So you don't want to do things too fast. This is where my saying of this is not a game really relates. If you want to kick your own ass, you can do that. You can do that all day long. It doesn't mean there's any problem with the program, because the program and me are always saying, slow down, don't kick your own ass. And then you get people who seem to miss that because they just want to get better and they're impatient. And they just don't want to listen to the slow down, so you don't make yourself feel worse along the way. Doesn't mean there's any problem with lactoferrin. If you have a problem with lactoferrin in terms of starting it, and this is not a judgment against you, you're probably really toxic, and your bile is probably really toxic, and you probably have a lot of leaks. And so if you push the bile production too fast with lactoferrin, you feel worse. It's as simple as that. It's because of the leaks that are why you have health problems. So let me get back into the next one. Let me find this. Here we go. I'm going to try to start making these quicker. Role of lactoferrin in the treatment of bile duct ligation. They gave these rats cholestasis. They tied up their bile ducts, so their bile had nowhere to go. It's going to blow holes in the system, just like if you plug up a pipe system. The pressure is going to back up. It's going to blow holes eventually. Bile duct ligation induced hepatic liver fibrosis in rats. impact on inflammation in TGF beta 1, SMAD2, alpha, SMA signaling pathway. I'm not going to read all that again. Let's just go down here and get the summary. Lactoferrin treatment ameliorated or made better these effects through its anti-inflammatory action. It significantly decreased tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin 1 beta by 166%. Anti-fibrotic effect of on the liver effect by downregulation of this signaling pathway. Conclusion, lactoferrin shows promising results for the treatment of hepatic fibrosis via attenuating or lowering this pathway and through its properties. Okay, so that one's done. Now, one of the things I talk a lot about is how, okay, so your liver makes toxic bile. The toxic bile goes into your gut. Actually, you know what? I forgot to do one thing. I'm going to show you guys. Hold on, Joe. You don't need to show my screen yet. Let's do... Yeah, let's do this one. Okay, Joe, you can show this one. So I want to go over, so one of the ways that you leak toxic bile, one of the major ways, everybody hears about leaky gut. Everybody makes up all sorts of things that they think cause leaky gut. What causes leaky gut? Your toxic bile causes leaky gut. It eats holes in your gut. I've shown research here showing that leaky gut is modulated or controlled by your bile. Okay. So I wanted to read this. Let me highlight it first. Oh, share the tab. There we go. I can do that. Did I post the link? I didn't. Let's do that. Do it. Okay. We're about to go over probiotics and your gut microbiome. Lactoferrin promotes the growth of selected probiotic strains. What do you think? It helps the good ones or the bad ones? I'm going to take a guess. It's the good ones. Let's do this. The effect of lactoferrin on the growth and diversification of intestinal microbiota. That's your good bacteria in your gut. Well, it's the bacteria in your gut, just general. May have an impact on several issues. So they know that lactoferrin helps with the bacterial profile of your gut, including 1, strengthening the permeability of the epithelial cell monolayer. That would be fixing leaky gut. 2, favoring the microbial antagonism that discourages the colonization and proliferation of enteric pathogens. So it's favoring your good bacteria that would keep the bad bacteria down. Number 3, enhancing the growth and maturation of cell monolayer components and gut nerve fibers. Oh, you mean healing the gut more. And 4, providing signals to balance the anti- and pro-inflammatory responses, resulting in gut homeostasis. Well, those are pretty good things, I would say. You know, so, gosh, what if lactoferrin helps? So again, we said it helps heal the bile ducts, which would make sense that it also helps heal the gut. But what's causing the leaks? It's the toxic bile itself. So you have to go by your body's feedback, which is what those detailed instructions are all about, is how to listen to them and how to go up slow. Again, you decide to go and kick your own ass with lactoferrin, not my fault. I've warned you. Okay. So let's just run through. I may not even read all the, wait, wrong one. There we go. Let's go here. Let's go here. Okay. So I'm going to save some time on this. So let me give you the quick explanation. Oh, let me shrink this for Joe. There we go. Toxic bile comes out of your liver. It goes into your intestines. This is one of the major things that your bacteria, your intestinal bacteria, feed on and either are suppressed by or thrive on. This is the main determinant of your gut bacteria. If you have really toxic bile, you're going to support most likely bad bacteria that love toxic bile. If you have less toxic bile, you're going to support better bacteria that are also called less, they're basically less bile tolerant. They don't do well with really toxic bile around in a lot of bile. So I'm going to go through these mainly through the title, because this is going to be so long today if I don't do this. Lactoferrin modulates gut microbiota. Lactoferrin controls the gut microbiome. In mice with dysbiosis, a messed up gut biome induced by antibiotics. Oh, so lactoferrin helps fix the damage caused by antibiotics. Let me see what else I marked in here, if I did anything. Nope, we're just going to go by the title on that one. Did I post that one? 3145. No, let me post that one. There we go. Oops, I didn't want that up. There we go. And here. Okay. Now, let me find the next one. Yeah, I'm just going to hit the titles of these. You guys can look them up if you want. Lactoferrin alleviates inflammation, reduces inflammation, and regulates gut microbiota composition in H5N1 infected mice. Modulates. Oh, wait. Sorry. Modulates, regulates. There it is. You've seen these words. Modulates, regulates. I think, let me see if I marked anything in here. I don't think I did. Nope. Here we are on the next one. The impact of lactoferrin on the growth of intestinal inhabitant bacteria. When you see all the diseases that I go over that lactoferrin has shown benefit, and you'll understand that lactoferrin, anything you see about here, you're like, well, did it do something good or something bad? I'm going to tell you that modern medicine knows basically jack squat about the gut microbiome. They think they know stuff, but they don't really. The fact that they don't even talk about how bile affects it means they don't really know anything about it. So, by using lactoferrin as a component in pharmacological products, they're going to try to turn it into a pharmaceutical. We may enable novel strategies or new strategies that promote probiotic growth and conferring antimicrobial activity against multi-drug resistant microorganisms that cause life-threatening diseases, especially in newborns. Newborns are being born toxic. That's their problem. Lactoferrin is helping with the damage from the toxicity. So you're not leaking the toxicity into your bloodstream. That's how it works. They'll make up all these pathogen things and autoimmunity, and it's just jaundice. It's stuff leaking into your bloodstream. Yeah, I remember why I don't have these marked, because I didn't. These were some of the first things I pulled up and I just didn't mark them. Let's do this one. Lactoferrin, a glycoprotein that plays an active role in human health. Let's see. I think we already went over this one. Yeah, we already went over that one. So let's go to this next one. Wait. Oh, I closed the one with the share tab. Sorry, let me get that back. Can't do that. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, Joe. Effect of lactoferrin on intestinal flora, the microbiome of metabolic disorder mice. Well, that seems kind of important. They're already metabolically disordered. They have toxic bile already, or they're just not good at getting rid of it from birth because they were bred that way. Let me see. I'm not going to go over all that. Okay. Lactoferrin treatment significantly reduced the levels of visceral adipose ratio. That's the hard fat. That's what you don't want. Lactoferrin treatment significantly reduced the levels of visceral adipose ratio. That's the visceral fat, blood glucose, triglycerides, total cholesterol, and low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, in high-fat diet mice. Don't eat high fat. It's not good for your liver. They show this over and over in animal studies. There's not that much fat in a natural diet. You're not supposed to be pouring oils on your food and eating giant chunks of butter. No one said humans are ever designed for that. A fatty ribeye, like, That's intramuscular fat. Do you understand how obese that cow is to have fat inside the muscle? Anyway, it can be seen that drinking water with 2% lactoferrin had a significant impact on metabolic disorders. Well, we're going to go over diabetes as one of the leading causes of death in the US. This was all diabetic stuff right here. They talk about the bacteria that went up and down. In conclusion, lactoferrin regulates metabolic disorders by regulating intestinal flora. Why have you never heard of this molecule? Okay, let's go into the next one. But sorry, I forgot to tell you about, so your liver makes the bile. It makes primary bile acids. These bile acids go down into your gut. The gut bacteria, if they're the wrong gut bacteria, the bile is too toxic, they turn it into what are called secondary bile acids. Secondary bile acids are the most toxic bile acids. You reabsorb on a standard American diet, they say you reabsorb 95% of those bile acids and they go right back to your liver. So your gut biome has just made your bile even more toxic than it started. And now it sends 95% of it back up to your liver to then damage your liver. It slows down your liver's ability to detox. Your liver doesn't make bile as well. So your liver starts accumulating, and your body fat starts accumulating more and more toxins that you can't get rid of. Your bile becomes more toxic. It then makes your gut microbiome more toxic, which then makes the bile more toxic. And then you have this toxic loop. You don't want to try to speed up the loop. We just saw that sick livers had less lactoferrin. So can we support lactoferrin in the body? Sure. We're supporting something it wants to make anyway. But again, you can't do it too much too fast. So let's go into, so one of the things we talk about too is we talk about aldehyde dehydrogenase. So basically, generally things that increase, this is going to be one of the connections. People are out there going, sometimes they go, well, how does ALDH and bile connect? Where's the research showing that as ALDH speeds up, or as ALDH returns more towards its normal speed, that bile production goes up? I'm about to show you an example of how I connect these things in the research, and I've done this with multiple things, like quercetin, not something good, slows down ALDH, and quercetin reduces bile production. You got to look at two separate studies to put that together, but once you start to see the patterns, which is what I do, it starts to become very obvious. So remember, we already went over lactoferrin increases bile production. Okay? Daily dose of bovine lactoferrin prevents ethanol-induced, alcohol-induced liver injury and death in male mice by regulating hepatic alcohol metabolism. What do you think that is? And modulating gut microbiota. There it is again. Lactoferrin can remarkably decrease alcohol-induced mortality. Lactoferrin promotes aldehyde dehydrogenase 2, ALDH2 expression, and suppressing cytochrome P452E1 overexpression. Remember, things could go too high or too low. This is why we don't use herbs or genetically modified bacteria to try to speed up ALDH. For all of those of you who out there who think you found something special, you didn't. Do not try to force your ALDH faster. Force, I said, with herbs or genetically modified ALDH producing bacteria. Don't do it. Results, so they got this to not overexpress, resulting in the reduced hepatic liver superoxide inflammation levels, which ultimately leads to the liver injury, hepatic injury alleviation. So they're reducing the inflammation, promoting the detox, which leads to less injury of the liver. Okay. However, human lactoferrin increases acetyl-CoA carboxylase and fatty acid synthase protein levels, which suggests that excessive intake may weaken the beneficial effects of lactoferrin. Now, I don't know how much I believe that, but we did find, for those of you who are taking the Nutrition Detective lactoferrin, based on the calculations we did, we found that at the peak of lactoferrin delivery to a newborn via breast milk, the best numbers we could come up with from like how much lactoferrin was in human milk and how much breast milk a baby would consume in a day at that age, we saw that the maximum intake based on, you know, these rough calculations that we could do was about 1,000 milligrams of lactoferrin. Okay. What we found with people anecdotally is it seems that the most benefit comes from maximum of two of our lactoferrin pills a day. Maximum of 2. You can go over that, but because I'm an honest person and I'm not just trying to sell you more lactoferrin than you need, I'm going to say you don't need to go over that. A less honest person might tell you to take as much of it as you can afford. I'm not going to do that. I'm not some crappy biohacker who lies to people. There's always a point of diminishing returns. What we found with our lactoferrin is 2 pills a day. Now, if you're taking other brands that are 30 to 50% as potent as ours, based on people's feedback who have taken both types, you could take more. But that's up to you. So, moreover, L-lactoferrin, what is L-lactoferrin? Low dose. Moreover, low-dose lactoferrin increases the relative abundances of Akkermansia and lactobacillus. Additionally, the study shows that lactoferrin likely exerts action in its digestive product forms rather than intact lactoferrin molecular in normal condition. Okay, so people get into this, oh, but what about liposomal lactoferrin, or what about enteric-coated lactoferrin? The study shows that lactoferrin likely exerts its actions in its digested forms rather than the intact molecule. Low-dose lactoferrin can ameliorate acute liver injury, which is associated with the regulation of hepatic liver alcohol metabolism and the modulation of the gut microbiota. However, excessive lactoferrin intake may result in a diminished benefit. So don't take too much. I just told you what that was in our lactoferrin. Okay? What else does it do to alcohol metabolism? And ethanol being related to, oh, I don't know, something like retinol, another alcohol that we store in our liver. Lactoferrin prevents chronic. So they just went over acute liver injury from alcohol, but it also prevents chronic alcoholic injury by regulating redox balance and lipid metabolism in female C57BL/6J mice. Say all that like 5 times fast. So chronic alcoholic liver injury, they abbreviate with ALI. Meanwhile, 0.4% and 4% of the casein, which contains vitamin A in animal studies, in the AIN93G diet were replaced by AIN93G. Hold on, I need to write this down. If any of you out there are into animal research or used to be, what I want to know, you want to post, actually, if you could post in the comments afterwards, because I do see the comments afterwards. I don't see all the live chats. You guys post like 500 chats. I don't have time to go through all the live chats. I'm sorry. These are hours long anyway. But if you know what the biggest brands of what they call vitamin-free, right, mouse and rat feeds, research feeds, I want to know what they are. Yeah. I want to know what the biggest brands of mice feed and rat feed, the ones that they call vitamin free, which means they're trying to say it's vitamin A free. Probably not. But anyway, we'll go over that. So they replaced some of the vitamin A casein with lactoferrin. And I guess this is low dose lactoferrin and high dose lactoferrin. Or is it human? Let me just make sure. Yeah, high dose, low dose, and high dose. There it is. High-dose lactoferrin significantly reduced hepatic liver triglyceride content. That would be fatty liver and improved pathological morphology. So the liver cells looked better under a microscope. They were already sick, and they looked better. High-dose lactoferrin could inhibit cytochrome P450 2E1 overexpression. They talked about that last time. And promote alcohol dehydrogenase 1 expression. So now we've got it's promoting alcohol dehydrogenase. Retinol goes through alcohol dehydrogenase. It turns into retinaldehyde, which I actually think is possibly one of the most damaging forms. Then, I'll explain that in 1 second for those of you who this is a relatively new concept. But so retinaldehyde then goes through aldehyde dehydrogenase to then become retinoic acid. Well, people then go, well, but retinoic acid is probably the worst one. Well, I'm just not sure about that, because one of the things that retinoic acid does, and probably it kind of sticks after, let's say somebody takes Accutane, they take a form of retinoic acid, they take Retin-A, they take a form of retinoic acid. I've shown the research here before that retinoic acid inhibits ALDH. Retinoic acid inhibits ALDH. Your body will slow down ALDH to protect itself against retinoic acid, but then you build up retinaldehyde. And we go over here over and over about how ALDH is so important. It is possible that retinaldehyde buildup, the one form of vitamin A that the research hardly ever talks about, is the most damaging one. Just a thought. So, high-dose lactoferrin activated protein kinase B and AMP activated protein. Let's just go through this. Yeah, it benefited all sorts of stuff. But here they say it had no obvious beneficial effects on gut microbiota. Did I get this one, Joe? Did I not do this one? Let me see. LF, lactoferrin, could alleviate chronic alcoholic liver injury in female mice. Okay, so let's keep going. So we're preventing alcohol damage. Now let's get into the copper and zinc stuff. We talk a lot here about copper being a toxic metal. It doesn't matter whether it's bioavailable or not. And ceruloplasmin in your body makes not to deliver copper to areas because it's needed. Ceruloplasmin in your body makes to protect you against copper. It can't stay in the liver, but your body makes binding proteins. And that's why when ceruloplasmin goes up in states of inflammation, it's to protect you against the free copper. It's not to make it bioavailable. So this is some more theoretical stuff. Let me see, is this the right one? Yeah. Unfolding of iron and copper complexes. Lactoferrin can complex with copper? Of human lactoferrin and transferrin. Well, let's go just the word lacto. Lacto is related to milk. Ferrin is related to iron. Okay, so they named it after a protein that is found in the highest abundance in milk, human or bovine or camel or whatever, and it's related to iron. Okay. Human lactoferrin and transferrin are capable of binding to iron or copper ions into specific binding sites in the presence of bicarbonate. Do you have bicarbonate floating around your blood? Yes, you do. Sometimes you'll see it on your blood test. It'll say bicarbonate. So anyway, that's just an interesting note that lactoferrin, they named it after iron, but it actually binds copper. And then when you see, so when we talk here about copper toxicity causing lots of diseases, and then you see that, and we talk about iron overload being related to lots of diseases, that lactoferrin can bind to 2 iron or 2 copper to make them less toxic. It's not delivering them anywhere. It's protecting you from them. Does this all make sense? Now, let's go into this one. Lactoferrin. The lactoferrin phenomenon, a miracle molecule. Wow, if researchers call something a miracle, that might mean it's pretty good, right? Did I mark this one? Let me see. Let me go check. There is a high probability that lactoferrin can also bind copper, zinc, and manganese ions. Manganese is, if you haven't looked at the research on manganese causing neurological disorders and copper, basically any neurological disease you look up, copper and manganese are high in it. Oh, and we showed that zinc is low. So am I worried about zinc? No, I'm not worried. Okay, so zinc showed up here. I'm not worried about it. Almost everybody's zinc deficient. So yeah, you need more of that and you need less of these. In addition, as a result of the chelation process, which reduces the iron overload caused by the accumulation of iron in many organs, leading to free radical generation and dysfunction, the availability of iron to pathogens that need it for their growth is reduced. So lactoferrin can bind to things and hold them so that they don't change the terrain. It changes the terrain by grabbing onto things. So, oh wait, here's a funny little thing. Let's just add this on here. Lactoferrin also has the ability to modulate lipid metabolism, which translates not only into better regulation of satiety mechanisms, which means you feel full better or more accurately, but also helps to fight the tendency to adipose tissue accumulation. Helps to reduce people getting chonky. Okay? Wow, what does this not do? Let's go to the next one. So I don't care about vitamin E in here. We do not take vitamin E. Let me explain what vitamin E does in this in a second. But I don't take vitamin E. Don't. It's another alcohol, tocopherol, tocotrienol. Don't take it. It comes from red palm oil, one of the highest vitamin A sources out there. And vitamin E, the reason you might see vitamin E benefits in the research is because I have the research in the Love Your Liver program. Vitamin E can increase the shoving or storage of vitamin A in the liver by up to 20 times in animal studies. 20 times more vitamin A getting shoved into the liver because vitamin E is there. That's how it, if you don't understand this, a lot of supplements out there can reduce. Yeah, we can't avoid, okay, Yakzan, we can't avoid all the toxins in food. I'm just going to state this for everybody out there. You cannot avoid vitamin A completely. You cannot avoid vitamin E completely, but do not take it as a supplement and do not try to eat foods that are high in it. That's as simple as that. You can't make it zero, and we want to avoid it. But not avoid it, but you can't make it zero. So don't eat foods that are like bragging about, oh, it's super high in vitamin A. Okay. Did I do this link? So if, let's say, acne was related to too much vitamin A in your bloodstream going out your skin, does it make sense that if I tell you that vitamin E can shove it into your liver, that it could look like it helped the symptom of acne? Oh, let me do this. Did the highlighting just disappear? I bet it did. Where'd it go? Come on. Oh, this thing. Okay, well, anyway, it took away my highlighting. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial to determine the efficacy and safety of lactoferrin with vitamin E and zinc. We like zinc. We like lactoferrin. Vitamin E is not helping the process. As an oral therapy for mild to moderate acne vulgaris. And a lot of people, honest, humans are vain. We are created to be vain people and to judge what we look at as the health of other people based on their appearance. So it's okay to be concerned with your appearance. This is a human thing. So again, lactoferrin, an iron-binding milk-derived protein that has shown antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effects in vitro, so in cell studies and in live people and animals. They gave a capsule with lactoferrin and zinc. That's what we're interested in. But yes, vitamin E was in there. The lactoferrin group showed a significant median % reduction in total lesions as early as 2 weeks, with the maximum reduction occurring at week 10. Takes a while to fix the bile ducts, folks. Compared to the placebo group, Maximum reduction in comedones, that's zits basically, and inflammatory lesions was also seen at week 10 compared to placebo. Sebum scores were improved by week 12. Isn't that what Accutane tries to fix? You're making too much sebum, and so Accutane just destroys your oil glands. That's what it does. It doesn't mean, so think of that oil. Think of when they talk about destroying sebum glands, your body was trying to get rid of, wait, they're saying it's oily stuff coming out of your skin. Gosh, if you had too much of a fat-soluble toxin like vitamin A, how would your body best excrete it? Oh, in oily, greasy stuff. And if it gets caught in your skin on its way out, you get bumps. Your body locks it in there. And then you can pop it out, right? If you do that. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, does this all make sense? Hold on, let me get in here. Patricia asked, if you have low ferritin, does that mean lactoferrin is contraindicated? No, it does not. Lactoferrin regulates iron in the body, helps fix dysregulation of iron, which means high iron or low iron. So no adverse effects were observed during the trial. I don't know how, I don't know what their observed effects were or how strong their lactoferrin was, but if you have really toxic people, well, what they probably did was they probably separated out all the really sick people. They were probably getting like teenagers and college students with acne who were not really sick. Because, like I said, lactoferrin can kick your butt. A twice daily regimen of lactoferrin with vitamin E and zinc significantly reduced acne lesions in people with mild to moderate acne vulgaris. Okay. You're welcome, Patricia. So that's just some stuff about zinc. So we talk a lot about zinc. Zinc is good. I test, well, Nathan and I, and soon to be Hope and Kelsey, we test zinc in both hair and blood, and we test copper in both hair and blood because it's really, really, really important. Funny coincidence, lactoferrin and zinc work together well. We do that all the time. And lactoferrin binds to copper and manganese and iron, things that we are often trying to reduce, and vitamin A increases your iron absorption and storage in the liver. So anybody out there who's like, I don't know, doing protocols to try to fix their supposed iron overload, and they're taking lots of natural vitamin A in the form of liver and cod liver oil and vegetables, they are storing more iron in their liver from all of that vitamin A. And that's why they obsess over reducing their iron stores, because they're causing it themselves. It's pretty sad that they ignore that part of the research. But there's only so much I can do. So let's go here. Actually, you know what? I want to show one thing that... Wait. Okay. Let me save this. Hold on. I got to get this image here. Okay, hold on. Joe, don't show my screen right now. Go into here. Okay. Joe, can you see that image I just pulled up? Let me do this. There it is. Okay, so I got it, Joe. Show this. Show what I just shared. Okay. So Kelsey, no, Joe, the molecule image. We got that up? I've got to see this. Is it not showing it? I don't see it on the screen. Can you see? Can somebody see this image? It's like purple. Share again. Okay. Let me go share it. Where'd it go? Oh, come on now. Hold on. Let me get this back. Let me stop sharing that. Let me go in here. Why can I not see this? There we go. Let me open this again. Let me go down here and share. And okay, try this one, Joe. There we go. Okay. So this is something Kelsey Kenny brought up. This is the structure of lactoferrin. And there is nicotinic acid. Look down here. Let me look at this better on my screen. Oh, it's not showing me my, there we go. There's my, oh, hold on. I want to be able to see this myself. So, nicotinic acid down at the bottom, NiO, is part of the lactoferrin molecule. Nicotinic acid as in flush niacin. What goes on, you need nicotinic acid to make NAD to make ALDH run. You saw that lactoferrin helps ALDH run. I think that we may need, so it's possible that lactoferrin in a certain way is a source of nicotinic acid to the body because it comes with it. And it's also possible that getting your nicotinic acid flush niacin repleted helps your body to make lactoferrin. Okay, let me get that. Let me get the link for it so you guys can, if you want to go look here, we're looking at the structure of lactoferrin. Okay, let me pull up the YouTube chat and I'll just pop this link in there. There's that. Okay, so if you want to look up that link. But nicotinic acid, which we talk here, if nicotinic acid is extremely helpful in vitamin A detox, I mean, you need it. It is not, we do not call it vitamin B3 here. It is not a B vitamin. It is an amino acid. Most of the B vitamins are garbage antidotes at best. If you don't know who loves to study B vitamins and pump out research on it, it's Merck and the American Chemical Society. They love to give each other, you know, they love to just slobber all over each other. Aren't we so wonderful with our B vitamin science? Merck and the American Chemical Society. Do you want to know what I posted on Twitter about this the other day? Do you know things that Merck makes a lot of? This is, you're going to love this. If you're into the alternative health world, if you're a conservative right winger and you think that you've outsmarted everybody with your ivermectin and all this stuff, Merck makes ivermectin, they make vitamin D3, and they make quercetin. You've been duped into buying a bunch of pharma cartel garbage. And they have just played the two sides against each other. They're playing you against each other, and guess who wins the whole time? The pharma cartel. Quercetin slows down ALDH. I got the research, which means it also slows down bile. Vitamin D slows down bile production. It is rat poison. And if you haven't watched the episode on here about ivermectin, boy, you should. That's with Kelsey Kenny too. So, okay, so let's go to the next. Joe, I'm going to close this, the lactoferrin window. And then we're going to go to the next window. Okay, so let me go and find, oh, wait, I probably got to share it again. Okay, so, oh, it took away my highlighting. Let me go share it again. Screen, tab, where is it? Oh, come on now. I'm just going to put it on one. This is not the right one, Joe. Sometimes I can't find the deaths, leading causes for 2020. Okay, we're going to share this. Okay, here we are. Can you see it, Joe? I'll get this out of here. These are the top 10 leading causes of death in the country. Oh, geez. Let me find this now. Here it is. Let me find the link. This is just so much. This is all over the place today. Sorry about this. In the chat, so I can put the link there. Here we go. From the CDC. Top 10 leading causes of death. I'm not going to return to this. I'm just showing you that this is the top 10 leading causes of death in the US in 2020. Now, if you see COOF, and they list COOF and influenza and colds, it's the same stuff if you didn't know. And what a cold or the flu or the COOF is in toxic bile theory is something triggers a massive bile dump. Something triggers a massive bile dump, prolonged, and you feel bad because not only were you leaking bile already and it was toxic already, but the actual increase in the amount of bile eats more holes, and then you're left with all this bile in your blood that then you have to clear out over the 2, 3, 5, 8, 10 days until you feel better. Now, if you had enough damage caused by all that excess dumping of toxic bile, you eat more holes and you leak more. And this is what they call the long COOF, is extra damage caused by your toxic bile from the flood of it. I've talked about the flood analogy before. So I'm not going to run through the order of these things. I'm just going to relate them as we go. So let's go. Heart disease was the #1 cause of death. Here, let me drink some of my niacin flush. So what do we have here? What does lactoferrin do in terms of fixing the damage caused by a heart attack? Myocardial infarction is a heart attack. Lactoferrin attenuates or reduces cardiac fibrosis. Oh, I need the link. Sorry, Joe. It attenuates or reduces cardiac fibrosis, which is scarring, and cardiac remodeling after myocardial infarction, heart attack, via inhibiting this signaling pathway. Our study established that the cardiac protective role of lactoferrin in attenuating or reducing cardiac remodeling and improving cardiac function by inhibiting the activation of myofibroblasts through suppressing this signaling pathway post-myocardial infarction. Treatment with lactoferrin may serve as a potential novel, as in new, therapeutic intervention in patients with myocardial infarction. So imagine what it would do beforehand. Okay, let's go to the next one. So that was heart disease. Let's go to cancer. Cancer was #2. Let me get back up here to the top. Lactoferrin's anti-cancer properties. Safety. Hey, that's important, isn't it? First, do no harm. All of you practitioners out there, first, do no harm. Safety, selectivity, and wide range of action. Wow, that sounds pretty good. In this review, so they looked at a bunch of studies, we outlined the anti-cancer properties of lactoferrin, an iron-binding glycoprotein of the innate immune defense. So they're saying lactoferrin is part of your innate immune defense system. Think of your immune system as a cleanup crew, and you will get much further in understanding health than if you think of it as an army protecting you. Lactoferrin shows high bioavailability after oral administration. So you don't need liposomal lactoferrin. You don't need enteric-coated lactoferrin. Lactoferrin in breast milk is not liposomal, and it's not enteric-coated. Oh my gosh, what did your mother do wrong when she nursed you that she didn't make it liposomal or enteric-coated? That's the way nature intended it, okay? So lactoferrin shows high bioavailability after oral administration, high selectivity towards cancer cells. Wow, selective as opposed to like chemo and radiation that just destroy everything they touch. That's cool. And a wide range of molecular targets controlling tumor proliferation, survival, migration, invasion, and metastasization. Of note, lactoferrin is able to promote or inhibit cell proliferation and migration depending on whether it acts upon normal or cancerous cells. It's selective. respectively. Importantly, lactoferrin administration is highly tolerated and does not present significant adverse effects. Moreover, lactoferrin can prevent development or inhibit cancer growth by boosting adaptive immune response. That's your cleanup crew. If you make your cleanup crew work better, you stop depositing cancer storage units all over your body. You stop making new cancer deposits places, and you inhibit new ones because there's not as much toxicity and stuff leaking into your bloodstream. Finally, lactoferrin was recently found to be an ideal carrier for chemotherapeutics, even for the treatment of brain tumors, due to its ability to cross the blood-brain barrier, thus globally appearing as a promising tool for cancer prevention and treatment, especially in combination therapies. Well, I'm going to tell you, don't take chemo. Okay? Chemo's bad. Okay? So let's go to the next one. You can see I can feel my face getting a little pinkish. Feel a little tingles in my face from the niacin flush. It's okay. There's no need to be scared. Oh, the last link. Did I not give that link, Joe? Here we go. Copy and there we go. Okay. So let's go here. Anti-cancer effects of lactoferrin, underlying mechanisms and future trends in cancer therapy. Those of you who have visited oncologists, those butchers, probably never heard about lactoferrin. When was this paper? 2014. Lactoferrin has been widely studied over the last 70 years, and its role in diverse biological functions is now well known and generally accepted by the scientific community. Why haven't you heard of it? Usually, alterations of the lactoferrin gene in cells are associated with an increased incidence of cancer. Wait, so if you don't, remember liver cells that were damaged and bile duct cells that were damaged made less lactoferrin because the toxic bile damaged them? Cancer is toxicity storage. How does toxicity get into your blood to go all around your body? Leaks in the bile system. Are you following? So what would lactoferrin from the outside potentially help with? Fixing the damage. Because your body is hardly doing it well. Okay. Several studies suggest that exogenous, that means from outside the body, taking something from outside, exogenous treatment with lactoferrin and its derivatives, things that are derived from it, can efficiently inhibit the growth of tumors and reduce susceptibility to cancer. None of these studies, however, reported a consistent outcome with regard to the mechanisms underlying the anti-cancer effects of lactoferrin. Let me go over this. I'm going to hit on the mechanism idea. Mechanisms are trash. I have gotten so far in all of this because I only care about, if you don't know what the black box is an idea. We're not talking about like esoteric occult things. We're talking about just an idea of a black box that you don't know what goes on inside of it. Think of that as your body. I mean, think about this. If conventional medical science knew anything about the human body, don't you think they would have fixed more things? Like, they can basically, hopefully, save you from dying. But if you have a chronic disease, they make it worse. They don't know jack about the human body. And who studies mechanisms the most? Conventional medicine. They study mechanisms to hide the toxicity effect. Some of them may realize they're doing it. Some of them may realize they're not doing it, but their mechanisms is like mental masturbation. I have gotten this far by almost not caring about mechanisms and only caring about output. Like, oh, lactoferrin looks good for cancer. Lactoferrin looks good for heart disease. Lactoferrin looks good for all the other causes of death in the US. Wow. Do I care about the mechanisms? No, but why will modern oncology not use it? We don't understand the mechanisms. It's complete garbage. They should be embarrassed. This is cheap. It's non-toxic. It's well tolerated. It's in our own bodies. What? Oh, and then they'll do genetically modified human lactoferrin, bioengineered, and they'll study it. They're going to find every single way to screw it up. Lactoferrin cell toxicity, lactoferrin cytotoxicity against several cancers is reported to occur in distinct ways under different conditions, namely by cell membrane disruption, apoptosis induction, cell cycle arrest, and cell immunoreaction. So they can't even figure out what the mechanism is because it's toxicity that it's fixing and damage to the tissues. They don't care about that. They want it to be like, how can we make this fit into our drug framework? They don't care about you or your family members. They care about patents and money. So, oh, it helps with cancer too. That was number 2. Let's keep going. Yeah, I feel the flush going on right now. Here we go. Joe, did I give that link? Hope I did. Okay. I'm just going to answer a super chat real quick. Jason, thank you for the super chat. He asked, thoughts on eating nitrate-rich foods like celery to boost nitric oxide, or even using a sodium nitrite lozenge. Do not do it. Drugs that boost nitric oxide cause liver injury all the time. I've shown research in the past that chronically boosting nitric oxide can help peripherally, but it damages the liver. So no, do not purposely try to boost nitric oxide. It will not. It may short-term help symptoms, which is what modern medicine does. They give poisons to relieve symptoms short-term while they cause long-term damage, especially to the liver. So no, do not purposely try to boost nitric oxide. I'm not that against celery. But like if you're eating like multiple stalks of celery every day to try to boost nitric oxide, you may cause yourself some problems. And definitely don't do beets, full of vitamin A and polyphenols. So, lactoferrin, the moonlighting. So which topic are we on now? Oh, we're on the COOF, okay? We're on the COOF things because supposedly that's the 3rd leading cause of death in the country in 2020. Where the flu disappeared and it got a new name, but we won't talk about all that. So where's what I put on here? Viruses are at best markers of toxicity. If you want to say viruses don't exist, that's cool. I don't care. I'm not going to argue about it. None of the theories on viruses other than viruses are an expression of toxicity in the body. That's all I care about. So whenever you see anything here on antiviral, if you see something that says it's antiviral, it means it's anti-toxicity. If you see something about a virus, that just means it's a form of toxicity. Okay? So if I read this, and you're like, Dr. Smith believes in viruses. No, I don't. But I'm going to show you that lactoferrin helps with what is called viruses. Okay. The antiviral activity of lactoferrin has been widely recognized. And the recent spread of SARS-CoV-2, aka the COOF, the causative agent of coronavirus disease, has renewed the interest in this glycoprotein in this field. Several in vitro and clinical studies have pointed out the possible employment of lactoferrin, especially the bovine form, as an adjuvant or add-on of standard of care therapy for COVID-19 patients. How much did you hear about lactoferrin during that whole debacle? Probably not, right? No, so let's keep going. Did I post that link? No, let me do that link. Lactoferrin for the COOF prevention, treatment, and recovery. Yeah, I did this one. Okay. SARS-CoV-2 is known to cause complications that may include pneumonia, acute respiratory distress syndrome, multi-organ failure, septic shock, and death. You guys may have heard in my anaphylaxis live stream about how we go over septic shock looks just like anaphylaxis, and septic shock and anaphylaxis are massive leaks of toxic bile into your system. This is how your body is all of a sudden poisoned from within. Have you ever heard a good explanation of why people go septic? Other than what I can tell you, what they found in like anaphylactic dogs, anaphylaxis and sepsis. We went over studies where they said we're having a hard time telling the difference between anaphylaxis and sepsis. I'm telling you it's the same cause. And what did they find in dogs with anaphylaxis? They found holes in their gallbladders. Gosh, do you think if there was an actual hole in a gallbladder, the thing that's designed to hold bile, that you might be leaking massive amounts of bile out in the system? Leaking massive amounts of bile out in the system can cause death, septic shock, anaphylaxis. Gosh, do you think it's causing multiple organs to fail? Yeah. One of the biggest things that is in bile is vitamin A, particularly as retinoic acid. Acute respiratory distress syndrome can be caused by taking the pharmaceutical retinoic acid. They call it retinoic acid syndrome. Weird how all this connects, right? And pneumonia, the lungs just don't like too much vitamin A in your blood. One of the reasons for that is you try to get rid of aldehydes through your breath. One of the forms of vitamin A, didn't I mention the aldehyde form of vitamin A as being really problematic? Oh, retinaldehyde. One of the most noticeable therapeutic approaches is related to a multifunctional protein, lactoferrin. Lactoferrin is an 80 kilodalton cationic glycoprotein that has a great range of benefits, and you haven't heard of it. From improving the immunity to antiviral effects due to its unique characteristics, such as the iron binding ability. Okay, so lactoferrin as immune enhancement strategy for SARS-CoV-2 infection in Alzheimer's disease patients. So Alzheimer's disease patients are already super toxic. Their toxicity has been basically degenerating their brain. So they already have toxic bile. They're already leaking toxic bile. Gosh, what do you think happens when they dump a ton of toxic bile into their system? It's bad. Accumulating evidence suggests that lactoferrin is active against the CoV, likely due to its potent antiviral and anti-inflammatory actions that ultimately improves immune system responses, or it seals up leakiness. Remarkably, salivary lactoferrin levels are significantly reduced in different Alzheimer's disease stages. Lactoferrin's reduced, huh? It'd be hard to fix leaky holes, which may reflect Alzheimer's disease-related immunological disturbances, leading to reduced defense mechanisms or increased leaking of toxic stuff into the bloodstream going to the brain against viral pathogens and an increase of COVID-19 susceptibility. This is why they used to say that the CoV would hit people with pre-existing conditions worse. They're already toxic. They're already leaking. You dump a whole bunch more of extra toxic bile into an extra leaky person, you get problems. They're just like, oh, their health is already compromised. And I'm like, why is their health compromised? They don't have good answers for any of these things, but toxic bile theory does. Ambulatory COVID-19 patients treated with lactoferrin as a supplementary antiviral agent, a preliminary study. You mean people can actually walk around with the flu? No way. Here we present, Joe, didn't I get the link? Which one did I not get? Okay. Here we present a small retrospective study on asymptomatic, paucisymptomatic, I don't even know that word, and moderate symptomatic COVID-19 lactoferrin treated versus lactoferrin untreated patients. The time required to achieve SARS-CoV-2 RNA negativization, those, so legit virus tests, in lactoferrin treated patients was significantly lower compared to that observed in lactoferrin untreated ones. 15 days for the lactoferrin people, 24 days for the non-lactoferrin people. Okay, so Joe gave me the definition to pauci-symptomatic. It refers to a medical term indicating someone presents with few symptoms. A link among reduction in symptoms, age, and lactoferrin treatment was found. I'm going to tell you the older people probably had it longer and worse. So we got that. So that was also, that goes with cold and flu, which was down the list. It was like 7 or 8 on the list. I'm not going to go back and find it because it's not that important, but we just covered the coof and we covered the colds and influenza. They are all the same thing. So the next one that I want to go over, so I didn't look too deep for this one, but it was accidents. Ramon, for the super chat, I'm going to address this right now. Ramon says, why do they keep telling us we need nitric oxide? Because it is associated with longevity. Association is not necessarily causation, but what say you? They're giving men like Viagra and Cialis on a daily basis now because they've duped everybody into the nitric oxide thing. Might you need nitric oxide to run certain things? Yes. Does that mean more is better? No. Promoting nitric oxide, I have the study, it showed long-term, what they called chronic nitric oxide stimulation caused liver injury. If you look up long-term use of Cialis and Viagra, the boner meds, they cause liver injury. They mess with nitric oxide. Polyphenols, beets, vitamin A, these things can do things. With pomegranate, full of polyphenols. It's better to use nicotinic acid, flush niacin, to improve your blood flow, not polyphenols. They want to poison you. So that's why you hear it from all the angles. You hear it in the alternative world. You hear it in the conventional world. They give you pharmaceuticals in the conventional world. They give you toxic fruits and vegetables in the alternative world. So it's just, if you are, let me say this. Men, first of all, if you have issues with your function in the bedroom, you need to know that any of these ED medications, they work at the start. Sometimes they don't work for guys. If the problem is significant enough in your mental state, your fight or flight, then sometimes those drugs don't even work. But those drugs, I knew a guy who worked before they sold them all over the internet. Because on Instagram, right? Ads are everywhere for these. They have now sublinguals, they have chewables, they have, oh my gosh, they're pushing this on guys so much. You take one type and then that stops working. And then you have to go up to a bigger dose and then that stops working. And then you have to go to injectables and you inject them where you're thinking, yes. And then those stop working. And then you have to go to stronger injectables. And then those stop working. And then you have to get an implant of some sort to have any sort of function at all. I had a buddy who was a naturopathic doctor. He worked in this field probably 10 years ago. He was at a clinic where they specialized in these meds. And he said he was seeing 20-something-year-old men come in who partied a bit too hard with these medications. And they completely lost all function over several years because they took it every time that they were having sexual activity and they ruined themselves. What I'm going to say is if you are going to use anything to help your function in the bedroom, the first thing you should do is address mental blocks. And guys, we all have plenty of these. I have talked to and worked with the people who are into the Mojo app. So if you are interested in getting help with that, it is the cheapest and most effective thing you're going to do. And secondly, if you're going to do supplements to help your function, only use them on occasion. Don't use them every time. They're not good for your liver other than nicotinic acid, which helps with your blood flow. But nothing works like the meds. I'll put it that way. Nothing works like those meds, but that's because nothing also damages your system like the meds. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So the next thing on the list of the next thing on the list of causes of death was injuries, traumatic injuries, accidents, stuff like that. So you can't find like lactoferrin and accidents. So what did I look up? I looked up wound healing. I don't remember if I put this one up, so I'll just put it up again. Roles of lactoferrin on skin wound healing. Wait until you see we saw the results on cardiac repair after a heart attack. Okay, now we're going to look at skin wound healing. Later on, you'll see brain healing after a stroke. This is a little long one. While inflammation is essential for successful wound healing, prolonged or excess inflammation can result in non-healing chronic wounds. Lactoferrin, an iron-binding glycoprotein secreted from glandular epithelial cells. It's funny how they say iron-binding protein over and over and over and over, but it binds 2 irons, but it could also bind 2 coppers. Weird. It's almost like they're trying to hide the copper thing. But anyway, secreted from glandular epithelial cells into body fluids, promotes skin wound healing by enhancing the initial and inflammatory phase. Lactoferrin also exhibits anti-inflammatory activity that neutralizes overabundant immune response. So it balances the immune response. Accumulating evidence suggests that lactoferrin directly promotes both the formation of granulation tissue and re-epithelialization. Lactoferrin stimulates the proliferation and migration of fibroblasts and keratinocytes and enhances the synthesis of extracellular matrix components, such as collagen and hyaluronan. In an in vitro model of wound contraction, lactoferrin promoted fibroblast-mediated collagen gel contraction. To summarize, these observations indicate that lactoferrin supports multiple biological processes involved in wound healing. So think about this. Let's say you were doing the Love Your Liver program and you were taking your lactoferrin and you got in an accident, a traumatic accident. You would heal better. So, let's see. Okay, so the next one I believe was strokes. So a stroke, like a heart attack, is a blood clot in the heart, and then blood vessels blow out, right? Because just like we talked about with the bile ducts, you block something, and then behind it, the pressure builds up and something blows out. Okay? Heart attack, a blood vessel is blowing out on your heart. Stroke, blood vessels blowing out in your brain. Okay? And then the parts behind it are not getting oxygenated blood. Okay? Well, I'm thinking of the hemorrhage, which can happen. But there's also just the necrosis and the death of tissues from lack of oxygen. So here we are. Optimized lactoferrin. This is an interesting thing they did because they're trying to optimize it. Not something I would think is necessary, but optimized lactoferrin is a highly promising treatment for intracerebral hemorrhage. Preclinical experience. So we got heart healing, wound healing, and now we're going to have brain healing. Intracerebral hemorrhage is abbreviated ICH. The obvious therapeutic target is the neutralization of toxic products of red blood cells breaking up, lysis, that lead to cytotoxicity, inflammation, and oxidative damage. Toxic products. Wow. Interesting. We used rigorous approaches and translationally relevant experimental ICH models to show that lactoferrin-based monotherapy by itself is uniquely robust in reducing brain damage after intracerebral hemorrhage. Specifically, we designed, produced, and pharmacokinetically, toxicologically characterized an optimized lactoferrin, a fusion of human lactoferrin and the FC domain of human IgG that has a 5.8-fold longer half-life in the circulation than native lactoferrin. Following dose optimization studies, we showed that this, what did they call it? Functional lactoferrin? This FC, which is this, bound to lactoferrin, FCLTF, reduces neurological injury caused by ICH, intracerebral hemorrhage, in aged male and female mice, and in young male Sprague-Dawley and spontaneously hypertensive rats. It showed a remarkably long 24-hour therapeutic window. In tissue culture systems, it protected neurons from the toxic effects of red blood cells and promoted microglia towards phagocytosis of red blood cells in dead neurons, documenting its pleiotropic effect. That means multiple avenues. Our findings indicate that FCLTF is safe and effective in reducing stroke, basically ICH, intracerebral hemorrhage, induced damage in animal models used in this study. So it helps with stroke. Do you think it would help to prevent stroke? Well, if it's from toxic bile leaking into the system, probably, because that's what it fixes. Okay, so that was stroke. Let's see. Now we go into lung diseases. So pneumonia, that kind of stuff. Okay, let me get... Joe, I don't know if I missed a link. I think I didn't, but here's the first one. Potential of... Wait, okay, 8861. Hold on, let me go back. So you have that one. Yeah, that's the one. That's the right one. Yeah. Okay, so let's go. Potential of lactoferrin in the treatment of lung diseases. Remember, we're just going through the top 10 causes of death in the US and showing how lactoferrin is related to all of them. Toxic bile goes to your lungs and it damages your lungs. One of the ways we try to get rid of aldehydes is by breathing them out. That's why we talk about Roman's breathing, his breath work stuff. I have a whole episode on aldehydes and all of that stuff. But aldehydes, you have to remember, it's a poison on the way in, it's a poison on the way out. So if you have excessive aldehydes in your system, they can damage your lungs on the way out. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to stop breathing, okay? It's just these things damage everything they touch. It's like trying to get rid of radioactive waste. You got to be careful and not overdo it. This article focuses on a review of the existing and most up-to-date literature on the contribution of the beneficial effects of lactoferrin on the treatment of lung diseases, including asthma, viral infections, cystic fibrosis, or lung cancer, among others. I love this. Although in vitro and in vivo studies, so that's in like Petri dish and actual animals or humans, studies indicate significant potency of lactoferrin in the treatment of the listed diseases. Only in the case of respiratory tract infections do human studies seem to confirm them by demonstrating the effectiveness of lactoferrin in reducing episodes of illness and shortening the recovery period. Oh no, only in the case of human studies do they confirm them. This is why I don't care about the mechanisms. I don't care about the animal studies. I care about human studies. Gosh, human confirms them. Wow, so it seems that lactoferrin helps nearly all of the big lung diseases. Wow, that's cool. I can keep going. Well, we're going to, because that's what I love to do. I'm just going to, I think, hit on the titles of these studies. This is the human recombinant. This is like the GMO lactoferrin. A novel human recombinant lactoferrin inhibits lung adenocarcinoma cell growth and migration with no cytotoxic effect on normal human epithelial cells. So they made a recombinant lactoferrin. It reduced lung cancer growth and metastasis or migration with no toxic effect on normal cells. Okay, that's enough for that one. Now, what's the next one? Bovine lactoferrin, which is what we use. Bovine lactoferrin inhibits lung cancer growth through suppression of both inflammation and expression of vascular endothelial growth factor. Well, there it is. Oh, I didn't share the screen. Sorry. Here's this one. Sorry if I missed this one. That's this one. I'm just going over the title. Title's enough. Trying to save some time. And then there's also this one, if I didn't show it. So that was lung stuff. Now let's go into brain stuff. Neuroprotective effects of lactoferrin in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases, a narrative review. Well, we've shown Alzheimer's is associated with vitamin A toxicity, copper toxicity, manganese toxicity. Same with Parkinson's diseases. Go search Parkinson's and manganese. What does lactoferrin bind again? Copper and manganese and iron. What a weird coincidence that it helps these things. Recent advances in lactoferrin research have uncovered that lactoferrin does function not only as an antimicrobial protein, but also as an immunomodulatory, anti-cancer, and neuroprotective agent. So we just keep expanding the list, right? Focusing on neuroprotection, this literature review delineates how lactoferrin interacts in the brain, specifically its neuroprotective effects and mechanisms against Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases, the two most common neurodegenerative diseases. Okay, so it helps with Alzheimer's, which was like, I think we're down to like number 8. Okay, let's do the next one. Let's do diabetes. Let me get this link. We're just going down the list. So I want you to understand. We showed how lactoferrin and toxic bile theory interact. And we talk about how toxic bile theory is linked to all of these diseases. So does it make sense that if lactoferrin helps in terms of toxic bile theory specifically, and all these diseases are connected to toxic bile leaking into your blood, do you see how I can make all these connections? Show me another supplement that you can do this with. Except, well, actually, you could probably do it with beta-glucan, which is a soluble fiber that can actually get into the blood, which is high in oats and barley, which are 2 of the foods that we use on the program. Weird coincidences. We'll go over that someday. Anti-diabetic efficacy of lactoferrin in type 2 diabetic pediatrics, controlling impact on these downstream signaling pathways. I'm not going to read all those. Okay. We saw earlier where I mentioned there was all those connections to basically diabetes, lactoferrin helping all those connections to what is basically diabetes. The anti-diabetic efficacy of lactoferrin was confirmed by significant improvement of the baseline levels of hemoglobin A1C, BMI, body mass index, and lipid profile of the obese pediatric cohort, which is evidenced by increased PPAR and SIRT1 expression. Moreover, the anti-inflammatory effect was evident by the significant decrease in serum levels of interleukin-1 beta, interleukin-6, interleukin-18, tumor necrosis factor alpha, we saw that earlier, lipocalin-2 in type 2 diabetic post-treatment group, which corresponded by decreasing I think that's kappa B, downstream signaling indicators. The antioxidant efficacy was evident by stimulated SOD levels and NRF2 expression compared with the pre-treatment group. The consumption of high concentrations of lactoferrin explains its hypoglycemic efficacy. It lowered blood sugar and counts for its insulin sensitizing, that's good, anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory effects via this signaling cascade. Recommendations on regular intake of lactoferrin could ensure better glycemic control compared to conventional anti-diabetics alone, because they'd never want you to not take your pharma cartel meds, right? You can add lactoferrin on top of it. So there's diabetes. We're almost at the end of the list. Oh, one of the last ones was kidney disease, nephritis, that kind of stuff. Now remember, Grant Genereux of ggeneru.blog, he wrote his free ebooks, which you can find there. He is the man who opened my mind to vitamin A toxicity. And then Grant's work led me to Anthony Mawson, and Anthony Mawson was the man who opened up my mind to the cholestasis toxic bile theory. Toxic bile theory is my own creation, but Anthony Mawson talked about the liver basically leaking vitamin A into the bloodstream as retinoic acid, and this causing tons of diseases. I think Anthony Mawson has 34 papers out there connecting the potential of vitamin A leaking into the blood from the liver, which is basically toxic bile theory, as causing multiple diseases. So here we go on kidneys. Now, but the reason I mentioned Grant was Grant had chronic kidney disease. He had chronic kidney disease. He was heading for dialysis. He had jaundice. He was yellow all over, and he had eczema, really, really, really painful, bad eczema. His doctor basically said, like, you're going to go on dialysis or you're going to croak. Grant went home, figured out The biggest things connected with eczema in terms of foods was vitamin A. In the top 10 trigger foods of eczema, he found that there was vitamin A in like 9 of them. And he made his own diet of beef or bison, black beans, white or brown rice. So he ate those 3 things repeatedly, daily. He made them into a soup. He calls it his prison diet as a joke. He is now 9 years into this. It was a low vitamin A diet, and he is the only person his kidney doctors have ever seen escape chronic kidney disease, and all of his labs are back to normal. They have never seen it before. We now have a person who had primary biliary cirrhosis diagnosed, who has fixed that completely based on lab tests. We are fixing the things that they don't think can be fixed. So that's why I'm going over kidney stuff. Can we potentially accelerate things with lactoferrin? Yes, as long as you don't push it too hard. Okay. Remember, you can hurt yourself with exercise, right? Exercise is good for you. Can you hurt yourself with exercise if you do it wrong, or you do too much, you go too heavy, you overtrain too much? Yes, you can hurt yourself with exercise. So get that through your head. You can overdo these things and hurt yourself. Don't be greedy, thinking you're going to be the fastest person to ever get better. No, there's a lot of bodies on the road. And I don't mean bodies like people died. I mean, there's a lot of people who thought they were that. They thought they were that guy. They got their butt kicked. They got humbled. Some of them probably made a poor decision to leave the approach because they did it to themselves. And some of them just said, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's exactly what you said, Dr. Smith. That happened just like you said. And I go, yes, it did. That's why I told you not to do that, but you did anyway. Okay. Flush is all gone. Let me see. I think this is the right one. I don't know. I got Joe 0363. Let me look. I mean, you guys, if you need to find, let me just say this again. If you need to find any of these, yeah, Joe, that's right. If you need to find any of these papers, I show you the title. I'm just going to remind you, if you want to see these papers, go to pubmed.gov. Watch the video for the title. Take this, plug it in here. You can just type it in. There it is. Okay, so if there are some people who are too lazy to do this, if the link didn't work or whatever, if I forgot it, they'll be like, well, it's not there. And I'm like, come on now. They just don't want to believe me. So they get lazy so they don't have to find the evidence against what they want to believe. Anyway, that's cool. Can't protect people from themselves. Kidney protective potential of lactoferrin. Pharmacological insights, mechanism insights, drug-like effects. That's what they want to see. And therapeutic advances. Hold on one sec. Lactoferrin shows protective effects against acute kidney injury and chronic kidney disease. Both. Lactoferrin reduces markers related to inflammation, oxidative stress, apoptosis, and kidney fibrosis, and induces autophagy and mitochondrial biogenesis, new mitochondria in the kidney. What's been damaging the kidney? Toxic bile leaking into the bloodstream. The kidney is your second stage of detox. Kidneys also filter. Kidneys also store toxins. I can show you with toxic metals. Kidneys accumulate toxic metals. I think they were selling like kidney fat as an organ meat supplement the other day. Bad news. Just like you wouldn't want to eat fat off a fatty liver, don't eat kidney fat. What do they call it? Suet? Don't eat it. Where do you think the body might store fat-soluble toxins that hit the liver or that hit the kidneys? Oh, it might make fat to store them in. Why are we seeing so many fatty livers? Because of too many fat-soluble toxins. What would the body store fat-soluble toxins in? Fat. How does the body store fat-soluble toxins? Using choline. Careful with your choline. Don't obsess and take a bunch of choline. The evidence suggests that lactoferrin may become a potent pharmacological agent to treat kidney diseases. Well, it's not a pharmacological agent. It's a natural thing, and that's why they don't sell it, because they don't make any money on it compared to drugs. It's not a drug. They probably can't patent it, or that's why they got to make these like optimized lactoferrins. Here, we're going to keep going. Lactoferrin contributes a renoprotective, that means kidney protective effect in acute kidney injury and early kidney fibrosis. Lactoferrin-induced autophagy. Lactoferrin suppressed oxidative stress-induced cell death and apoptosis. Lactoferrin has an antifibrotic role. Treatment with lactoferrin recovered kidney function and further suppressed renal fibrosis. These findings identify lactoferrin as a potential therapeutic target for the prevention of the acute kidney injury to chronic kidney disease transition. Let's keep going. Lactoferrin ameliorates or makes better carfilzomib, that's a drug, induced renal and pulmonary deficits. Wow, lactoferrin helps the drug-induced kidney and lung damage. I'm not going to read any more on this one. Let's go here. And we'll just hit the title. Kidney protective potential of lactoferrin, pharmacological insights and therapeutic advantages. Is this, did I already say this one? I already did this one. No wonder I didn't highlight it. So there's kidney disease. So we have now, oh, wait, I'm sorry, the last one. The last one was suicide. The 10th leading cause of death in the US is suicide. Oh, I closed the, sorry, Joe, let me fix the share. I got you, I hear you. I swear, whenever I want one of these things, I can't find it on my list of tabs. Okay. So what I did, I'm doing the best I can here, folks. You can't find suicide and lactoferrin because, well, kind of obviously, if somebody tried to do suicide and it killed them, you can't go back and study them to see how lactoferrin would prevent it, right? Does that make sense? So what I did was I looked up lactoferrin as it related to depression. The best I could think to do, kind of like accidents that caused death. You can't go back and study how lactoferrin helped with accidents that didn't lead to death or that did lead to death. Okay, so I just looked up depression. Unleashing lactoferin's antidepressant potential through this pathway in chronic restraint stress rats. So they made these rats depressed. When you see what they do to them, I mean, these rats would not be happy. The objective of the present research. Oh, did I do this one? 377. Yeah, got it. The objective of this present research was to evaluate the efficacy of lactoferrin against chronic restraint stress. So they're strapping them down, basically. Induced depressive behavior in rats. Depression was evidenced by a reduced grooming time, so they're not cleaning themselves as much, in the splash test, and an increased immobility time in the tail suspension test. They're hanging them by their tails. And forced swimming test. This effect was also accompanied by reduced glutathione and serotonin levels and elevated lipid peroxidation. That's malondialdehyde. We talk about that a lot. Another aldehyde from PUFAs. And corticosterone levels in the hippocampus. Here we go. What did lactoferrin do? Interestingly, lactoferrin therapy significantly improved chronic restraint stress-induced behavioral and biochemical aberrations. So it helped the chemistry and the behaviors, an effect which was suppressed upon pre-treatment with whatever this drug they gave them. So when they gave them this drug before they did it all, the lactoferrin didn't work. When they didn't give them that drug, the lactoferrin worked. This suggests that the antidepressant potential of lactoferrin may be mediated through the modulation of this signaling pathway. Furthermore, lactoferrin succeeded in restoring 5-hydroxytryptophan, which, oh gosh, where does niacin, nicotinic acid come from? Tryptophan. But these are different pathways. Restoring 5-hydroxytryptophan and corticosterone levels. Corticosterone levels is what? It's your body's natural anti-inflammatories. Okay? Diminishing oxidative stress. When you think of cortisol, we did a cortisol and adrenal fatigue episode 1 or 2 episodes ago, showing how toxic bile theory relates to all of that. Diminishing oxidative stress and ameliorating or making better the inflammatory cascades. Therefore, for the first time, lactoferrin might serve as a promising antidepressant drug through targeting this pathway. So let's go over what happens when, let's say, baby animals, don't get enough lactoferrin. So remember how if people were sick and toxic, they don't make as much lactoferrin. So this would mean, ladies, you get pregnant, you're going to be nursing a baby, and you're toxic and nutrient depleted, you're not going to make as much lactoferrin. How might that affect your child? Lactoferrin deficiency during lactation, that's making breast milk, increases the risk of depressive-like behavior in adult mice. Yes, what happens to you as a child can affect how you feel as an adult. The whole blank slate thing is just garbage. You inherit toxicity and deficiencies from your parents. You can have a victim mentality about that, or you can fix it. That's what we do here. We fix it. We don't care how it happened. We only care that it stops happening, or that it has stopped happening, and then we start fixing it. Results: lack of lactoferrin feeding during lactation affected the barrier and innate immune functions of the intestine, disrupted the intestinal microflora. Oh, wait, the microbiome was messed up because of no lactoferrin, and led to neuroimmune dysfunction and neurodevelopmental delay in the hippocampus. When exposed to external stimulation, adult lactoferrin feeding deficient mice were presented with worse depression-like symptoms. Conclusions. Overall, our findings reveal that lactoferrin feeding deficiency, I think they mean, during lactation can increase the risk of depressive-like behavior in adults. The mechanism is related to the regulatory effect of lactoferrin on the development of the, quote, microbial intestinal brain axis. They just forget to talk about bile because they don't want to. They don't know about it and they don't want to. So that is what we have, folks. That is lactoferrin. Let me pull this up. Joe, that's it. You can take that off. So I'm going to, if there's any more super chats, we're going to go search for those. If you have super chats you want to put up right now, that's great. What time are we at? We are at 12:30. So I didn't do too bad on that one. I kind of shortened that one a bit, but okay. I don't know how to say your name. Is that IVIO? Anyway, I'm going to say it just because I got to say something. Ivio, I don't know. Thank you for the super chat. He says, I just joined the Love Your Liver program. I poop once a day, have SIBO and gas. What should I try first? NA, which would be nicotinic acid, sun fiber, zinc, magnesium, or potassium. I would go and check. I'm sure Joe already said this. I would go in the Love Your Liver program and look for the article called The Order of Adding Stuff. That is where you could start and get the most impact. And that's the order of how to go through things. You can try things, and if something doesn't work, you move to the next thing. But one of the first things, I mean, we talk about, sleep, and we talk about, movement, like actually getting outside and getting some sunlight. Like there's really the basics. There's people out there who try to make an entire living on like, you need to sleep better. I mean, that's true. You do need to sleep better. But I love when they're just like sometimes like when I see Huberman, he's just like, do all these things to fix your sleep schedule. And I'm like, but if somebody's copper toxic, you can't just make them sleep. Lots of you out there watching this understand that completely. We can do things to help, but you can't just make copper toxicity go away. And that will ruin your sleep. Potassium deficiency will ruin your sleep. Magnesium deficiency will ruin your sleep. Like, I just love that there was one guy on Twitter about blue light, and he was like, if you haven't fixed your blue light and your health guru says nutrition is more important than blue light, they don't know anything and they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, what you're made of affects when the light hits you. And the research has shown that without vitamin A present in your eye, blue light can't cause any damage. Blue light only causes damage when vitamin A is present. So it seems that nutrition is kind of the more important thing. But anyway, the order of adding stuff. So like there's like stages. Joe knew he's Zen Dog Breath in the chat. He constantly is telling people inside the Love Your Liver program, go look at the order of adding stuff. He's like constantly revisiting it and going down through it and then going back up to the beginning and making sure he's addressed these things. Because like let's just say you're drinking too much water or not enough water. I mean, I'm oversimplifying here. Constipation is not that often related to hydration. But when people are chronically dehydrated, you don't poop well. You're not lubricated, if you will. You need the water to give it, body and moisture so things move. So that's just a super simplified example. But the hydration video is like some people have told me the whole Love Your Liver course was worth that video. So like, let's just say it was something simple. Like I know SIBO and gas and all that stuff. It's probably a bit more complicated than that, but I'm just saying, like, make sure you have enough water, but not too much. And I talk about how to figure that out before you start worrying about complicated supplements, or complex, I should say. They're not complicated, but figuring that out. So the early things, there would actually be probiotics can help. I talk about which type of person is more likely to benefit from bifido versus lactobacillus. There's also the sun fiber feeds both of them. So working on the gut biome early on is one of the most helpful things. Nicotinic acid is up there. Low dose nicotinic acid is up there. That I would, I go over all the gut biome. I go over the electrolytes. I go over the big minerals. Like, it's all in a nice order. I don't want to say it wrong here because I'm not remembering the exact order off the top of my head, but there were those basic things. I call it level 0 is like sleep and movement and hydration and light. Like, that's so basic, it's phase 0, but you'd be amazed at how many people just kind of skip over that and then they don't deal with it. One of the biggest things to help with pooping can be potassium, getting your potassium right. Because your thyroid needs potassium to function properly, and copper toxicity depletes potassium, and vitamin A toxicity depletes potassium, and vitamin D supplements, if you took them in the past, those also deplete potassium. Sorry, vitamin A blocks potassium channels. So, we can't, this is the thing that we do there. So if you go through that order of adding stuff, that's why I made that, because people were going, where do I start? And I said, oh, but this should be addressed, because the Love Your Liver program has grown really big. Those of you who have been here a long time realize that people who join it now are kind of like, where do I begin? And that's exactly why I made the order of adding stuff. And I tried to make the articles sort of in that order as best I could. I'm going to be reworking the whole program and trying to simplify it and trying to systematize it and do all that stuff. That's in the plan for the future. Don't expect that anytime soon, but it is within months. I should be getting started on that. But yeah, the order of adding stuff, go through that. That's what it's there for. Read, folks, if you're in the Love Your Liver program, read the program. Not just you, Ivio, I mean, anybody who's in there, don't just watch the live streams because it's easy and then think you're going to get all the information in the live streams to work the program. You paid for entry into the program. All the stuff is there, and I tried to put it in an order, and I made the order of adding stuff. So go, even if you want to just read the articles that are related, like you're in level 0 and you're reading about how you watch the hydration video and you do that, and then you move to the next thing and you move to the next thing. Just go. You could do the articles in that order and address one thing at a time. You don't have to read the whole thing, get to the end, and then be confused about where do I start. It's too many things to do at once. You don't have to start it all at once. Add it a chunk at a time. That's right. That's how you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So that's, I would go and look back at that. I'm going to go over. So we do not consent with saying what causes copper toxicity. Where is the copper coming from? Actually, I'm going to do I had a request to do an episode on copper toxicity in the water and other stuff like that. But Joe just showed me a paper. Joe, you don't have to pull it up yet. We'll go over it in the study. But fluoridated water. So fluoride in your water is a neurotoxin. But Joe showed me a research paper that showed that fluoride in the water degraded copper water pipes to the point that there was 70 times more copper in the water when there was fluoride in the water. Weird that they would add a toxin that would then make something else more toxic. It's almost like they're trying to poison us. I don't know. So that was a really good find from Joe. I'm gonna go over that stuff because copper in the water is a big part of it. Here's okay. So let me go over copper and vitamin A toxicity and that stuff. Okay. First of all, you are not your grandparents. You are not your great grandparents. So anybody who ever brings up, well, my great grandparents ate liver like once a week and they were fine. And okay. Humans and animals accumulate toxicity across generations. Remember that because of is not the same as in spite of. So your grandpa may have been fine in spite of what he was eating, but he then becomes a bit more toxic. And your mom was probably, or great grandma or whatever, was probably eating the same things or similar things, and she was toxic. So the two of them put it together. And then you see the next generation, they're kind of toxic. They can't get away with the same stuff that their grandparents did. And then we get down the generations, and this should just make sense. Your mother cannot give you nutrients that she didn't have. Does this make sense? She can't build you out of stuff that she doesn't have the building materials for. So think about this. A mother will always try to give her child what she can spare, even if it means the mother might be a little worse off. Right? Isn't that what good parents will do? They will sacrifice for their children. So if your mom already didn't have enough nutrition, she can give you some, but she can't give you what you need because it's not there. So we can pass down nutrient deficiencies and we can pass down toxicities because while you're in your mom, what are you marinating in? Your mom's fluids. And if they're toxic, you're marinating in those fluids. Do you want to know what the placenta is for? It's an extra liver. It's a third liver. There's the mom's liver, there's the baby's liver, and there's the placenta. That's an extra liver. It's a disposable liver. So it can soak up toxins so you can throw it away. Don't eat the placenta. Oh my goodness, please don't do that. If you wouldn't eat liver, don't eat the placenta. So, yeah, these things are all getting handed down. This is why you can't do the same things that your grandparents did. And saying your grandparents did it doesn't make it an excuse for you to do it. I mean, you can try it. Go ahead and try it. Prove me right. I don't like for people to suffer to prove me right, but I do like being proven right by people who don't believe the logic that I lay down for them and warn them about. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to spread the truth so that people have the information so you can make the choices. If you get the information and you choose to make bad choices, I don't care. I'm a guide. But yeah, did Ramon put up another question? Oh, we did the nitric oxide thing. Yes. Yeah, don't force nitric oxide. And like I said, guys, if you have any sexual function issues, get that Mojo app. It will be the best $69 and do it. It will be the best $69 you ever spent. So let me just go see. Joe, were there any more super chats? I'm scanning it myself now. So Ivio, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. You may want to, if you want to say, if somebody noticed it, if you put how to pronounce it right, type it out. If you know how to like phonetically type it out, how it should sound coming out of my mouth. Matej, Matej, he did that. He specifically wrote out how to say his name, and I really appreciate that. I consider it really important to me to pronounce names right. So that's why when I don't know how to pronounce it, I don't like it, because I feel like it's a form of respect I can give you by pronouncing your name right. So when I don't know how to pronounce it, it kind of bothers me. So if you can type it out how to say it, that would be awesome. Oh yeah, Lacey says I have Barrett's esophagus, which I believe is from bile reflux. Yeah, let me show you that. That's real quick. Let me yeah, we talked about the nitrates. Yeah, we talked about the celery and stuff like that and the nitrates. Oh, let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find. Hold on. Joe, you don't need to show my screen quite yet. Let's do. Let me see if I can find it. I think I know what I need to look up. Let me go back and try something else. So what did you say? Let me see. That's all the super chats. Okay, so let's do retinoic. Hold on, let me just look at this. Okay. Now, some of you have been here a while, will get this. I'm going to show you something that is related to what we call the duration paradox. And if you do not know the duration paradox, it is when they do short-term studies on animals or cell studies, very short-term studies or cell studies, and they start getting good results. What I'm going to tell you is that long-term, it's kind of like, okay, so let me give you an example. The biggest example of the duration paradox that I can do. Caffeine, right? The very first time you drink caffeine, it's like turbocharging. So much energy. And you feel like you're just going, right? And they show in sports, like it improves performance. It's an ergogenic, compound. It helps your performance to improve. Okay, what does chronic caffeine intake do? It's addictive. It creates a tolerance, so you have to take more to get the same amount, to get the same effect. If you almost never get the same effect as you do the first time, right? And then you have withdrawals when you take it away. And generally, so what happens if people who are addicted to coffee or caffeine don't get it? They are way more tired than they used to be. So short term, do you see the time duration? Short term, it helps energy. Long term, it destroys energy. Understand? So what I'm going to show you is in these studies where they're going to say retinoic acid helped nitric oxide production. Joe, you can show it if you didn't already. They're going to say it helps in cells or in short-term studies. So we have this paper here, differential effects of retinoids, that's vitamin A, on nitric oxide production by pro-monocytic, these U937 cells and ZR75-1 human breast cancer cells. So what are we going to see? I'm going to tell you, I already knew what I was going to find. Our results indicate that retinoid-induced growth inhibition of breast cancer cells is associated with an increase in nitric oxide production. So there's more nitric oxide when they give cells retinoic acid. What I'm going to tell you is that long-term and in the whole animal or the whole human, it will destroy nitric acid nitric oxide production. Let's go confirm this. And if you haven't seen, how can we confirm this? Have you seen, oh my gosh, wait, let me show you this. Hold on. RX risk. I can find it real quick. I want to show you how damaging long-term retinoic acid is. Show you that the duration paradox is a real thing. I can find it. Does somebody know that that's that lawsuit about Accutane? I thought it was RX risk something. Well, there it is. Got it. RXISC, rxisc.org. Let me find this. They have the list here. Okay, so Joe was, or Zendog Breath was asking about a Love Your Liver live stream on duration paradox / honeymoon phase / detox setback. I could do that. That's kind of a higher end. So let's just look at this real quick. I'm going to show you the duration paradox. I'm going to show you it in action. So they're saying retinoic acid increases nitric oxide production, which in theory, with male sexual function, erections, it should help. Correct? Right. Didn't I share this already? Oh, Zoom. Okay, so we got the, yeah, I'll zoom on that one, Joe. So this says it helps with nitric oxide production. Here we go. Here's another paper. All trans retinoic acid ameliorates atherosclerosis, promotes perivascular adipose, whatever, tissue browning, and increases adiponectin production in ApoE mice. I'll show you a study on that in a second. Let's just look for the nitric oxide. Furthermore, ATRA, all trans retinoic acid, this is the same stuff as Retin-A. This is the same stuff they use as chemical peels on women's faces. Well, anybody's faces, but mostly women. ATRA increased nitric oxide level. So we have 2 studies showing that. So theoretically, in these short-term studies, if it's helping nitric oxide, it should help erectile function. Let us go look at the disease. Well, actually, let's just show the atherosclerosis, vitamin A, aortic. There it is. So long term, what does vitamin A do to blood vessels? They're saying retinoic acid reduced arteriosclerosis or atherosclerosis, either one. But wait. Increased dietary intake of vitamin A promotes aortic valve calcification in actual animals. Vitamin A all turns into retinoic acid after a while, doesn't it? So why is this doing the opposite here? Why is it promoting? This is atherosclerosis. When you think of blood vessels slowly shutting due to deposits, think of calcium, not cholesterol. Yes, cholesterol's in there, but it's the calcium structure that's holding it all together. That's why they do a coronary calcium score to measure how closed up your arteries are. So this is just another example. They said retinoic acid reduced atherosclerosis, and here I am showing you that, oh no, it promotes it. So let's go look at what Accutane, a retinoic acid, causes in terms of sexual dysfunction. This is from FAERS. Let's go look that up. FAERS is the, wait, let me pull that up so you know exactly what it is. It's the legit database, yes. FDA adverse event reporting system. So these are the side effects that are reported to the FDA. How many people don't, how many people here in the chat, you've taken a medication, it messed you up. Did you report it to the FDA? Did your doctor report it? Did your doctor tell you to report it? No, they didn't tell you anything. They don't want to have anybody report this. But, so I want you to think, this is the people who actually reported it or their doctors. Think of how this is like the jab reporting system, where doctors won't tell you where it is and they don't even know how to do it, and the nurses won't tell you where it is, or the nurses are encouraged not to report things to it. So let me read this to you. We'll come back to table 1. Within the age group 12 to 17, isotretinoin, 13-cis-retinoic acid. This is found in your body. Did I not do this one yet? Let me do the link. Your body takes vitamin A and it turns it into 13-cis-retinoic acid. It turns it into all-trans-retinoic acid. It turns it into 9-cis-retinoic acid. Within the age group 12 to 17, isotretinoin was the most reported drug in the adverse effects reporting system database for the following reactions. 32% of erectile dysfunction reports in this age group. Erectile dysfunction in 12 to 17-year-olds. Sorry, I'm not sharing it. Are they trying to make us infertile? Libido decreased, vulvovaginal dryness, testicular pain, organic erectile dysfunction, retrograde ejaculation, ejaculation going backwards. Isotretinoin was the most reported drug. Does this sound like a vitamin? But it helps nitric oxide. No, it doesn't. It destroys it. So what is, as we talk about, what is the most important thing to do first? Reduce the toxins in. You cannot, the more toxins you have in your system, the slower your detox system runs, right? The more you run your car, or like me, I shoot guns, the dirtier your gun gets, or the dirtier your engine gets, the less well it runs. Now, we want to start cleaning those things, but in the meantime, what we can do is we can stop making it dirty. This is what people are doing to their children to help them get rid of acne. They're giving them Accutane. Many of you out there took Accutane, whether it was your choice, whether it was your parents' choice, whether you were just desperate because you had horrible acne. If you had horrible acne, you were horribly toxic. That's just the way it is. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying this is what Accutane does to people. Table 2, reported reactions involving isotretinoin sourced from MHRA. Erectile dysfunction, loss of libido, gynecomastia, that is males developing breast tissue. Oh, vitamin A is good for testosterone. Okay, bro. Libido decreased. Okay. Sexual dysfunction, vulvovaginal dryness, organic erectile dysfunction, ejaculation failure, male infertility, male sexual dysfunction, penis disorder, premature ejaculation, dyspareunia, that's pain upon sex. This is probably, they're talking about females. Ejaculation disorder, hormone level abnormal, libido disorder, libido increased, penile pain, testicular atrophy, testicular pain, vulvovaginal discomfort, vulvovaginal pain. What about this says anything that it's good about for nitric oxide function? It's a poison. It's a straight poison. There is no difference between the 13-cis-retinoic acid that you take in a pill as Accutane and the 13-cis-retinoic acid you turn into in your own body. If you consume vitamin A, we can find 13-cis-retinoic acid in your blood and in your pee. If you eat vitamin A, you have Accutane in your blood, and it's coming out in your pee too. And you didn't have to take any Accutane to find that. It's the exact same compound. If you say the exact same compound doesn't do the exact same thing, you are not being scientific at all. So these are the reported reactions. Let's go over this last one. Sourced from the Adverse Effects Reporting System. Erectile dysfunction, libido decrease, gynecomastia, vulvovaginal dryness, loss of libido, sexual dysfunction, dyspareunia, that's pain on sex, hormone level abnormal, infertility, male, penis disorder, ejaculation disorder, testicular pain, vulvovaginal discomfort, vulvovaginal pain, azoospermia. I believe that means there's no sperm in the ejaculate. Or the sperm may be like not functioning right. I don't want, Joe, if you want to look that up, go ahead. Anorgasmia, they cannot orgasm. Disturbance in sexual arousal, genital pain, libido increased, organic erectile dysfunction, ejaculation failure, genital hypoesthesia. That's like a numbness to your genitals. Libido disorder, male orgasmic disorder, retrograde ejaculation. Again, that's the ejaculate going backwards. Testicular atrophy, female orgasmic disorder, inadequate lubrication, or, okay, so dry things, dry eyes, dry mouth. That's a liver problem. Very much connected to Accutane. Being dry after Accutane, whether it's sexual lubrication or whether it's eye lubrication or whether it's saliva lubrication, totally common. Testicular atrophy in a 12 to 17-year-old. Female orgasmic disorder, inadequate lubrication, orgasm abnormal, orgasmic sensation decreased, penile pain, penile size reduced. They actually saw that it reduced the size of their penis. Female sexual arousal disorder, female sexual dysfunction, genital paresthesia, that's again numbness, male sexual dysfunction, Peyronie's disease, the bending of the penis, and premature ejaculation. This was 6 years ago. Imagine what this is like now. Yeah, okay, Joe found it. The absence of sperm. Yeah, no sperm. So they made these kids infertile. Oh, sorry, this is just the 12 to 17-year-old group. So these are just people reporting it. So these could be adults too. So, no, don't push nitric oxide because it will mess up your liver. If you want to eat if you want to eat some celery, that's a low vitamin A food. That's fine, but do not be juicing celery unless you want diarrhea, and do not be excessively eating celery because of what you heard on the internet. Trying to boost nitric oxide. Can you eat things that have nitrates and nitrates in them? Sure. Just don't try to eat it like a drug effect. Okay? That is that. Okay, so Zendog, I'll take your suggestion into consideration. I did actually have a paper on a drug paradox where the pharmaceutical, it's on PubMed, and they're like, well, this drug is supposed to do this, but in actual people, it actually does this. And they're like, this is such a paradox. We don't understand it. And I'm like, I do. Duration paradox is how they sell you on toxins, folks. That's how they do it. They do short-term studies, and they do cell studies, and they look good. And then all these biohackers on the internet are like, take this. Now they're into, what is it, the urolithin A, like mitophagy, like eat up your old mitochondria. And the senolytic, the zombie cells. I saw that from Dave Asprey the other day. Dave Asprey, man. Wow. If you follow him, good luck with that. Maybe you'll look as good as he does. Beyond pharmaceutical stimulants and TRT and whatever. Anyway. Okay, well, this is an important question. We do not consent says, what about the food matrix or the rest of the stuff that comes with the vitamin A food? Could that help mitigate the toxic effects? So by doing that, you are admitting you are eating a toxin that you have to be protected from. Of course, it can help. I mean, zinc, right? The funny thing is muscle meat is like one of the absolute lowest sources of vitamin A and absolutely one of the highest sources of zinc, which you need to protect yourself against vitamin A and copper. And it's also, muscle meat is also extremely low in copper. So you can pick foods that have lower amounts of these things and potentially protective things in them, or you could try to consume foods that contain a lot of the toxin, hoping that whatever else is in them is going to protect you from what you have just admitted is toxic. And I'm going to tell you it doesn't work. I have a saying here, the poison always wins. The poison will win. You're not going to take in large amounts of a toxin and undo it by taking in large amounts of nutrition. Nutrition is not, it's strong, it's necessary, but it's not as strong as poisons. The poison always wins. This is why, again, it is the most important thing you can do first is to stop putting in so many toxins. That is the key thing. It doesn't mean none. There is no such thing as none. That's that. So we try to mitigate or reduce or minimize the intake of toxins. And then we also try to, whether it's through food choices or supplements, we try to optimize. I hate that word, but optimize. We're trying to get the right amount, the Goldilocks effect of the nutrients, that the minerals and the nicotinic acid and lactoferrin, if you want to take it, to help fix the damage and to protect ourselves against the toxins that you will be exposed to on a daily basis. So, yeah. But don't make the mistake of thinking that you can just protect yourself from the poisons. Like, it would be like somebody, the guys, oh my gosh, the guys who want to eat fish and shellfish, they'll be like, but the selenium in fish protects you from the mercury. And I'm like, you're going to go and eat a food that knowingly has significant amounts of mercury in it, hoping and assuming, that's, I say that a very specific way, assuming that the little bit of selenium in it is going to protect you, when I can then go and show you that the mercury level in the blood of men after they ate fish, the higher the mercury level in their blood, because it did go up, the more mercury in their blood, the lower their cognitive function. And these guys are going to tell me that the selenium protects them from the mercury. It didn't. It did not. The poison always wins. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. These sayings exist for reasons. So it's a good question. I mean, it's not a bad question. It's just, it doesn't work that way. Like, would you want to try to put the wrong type of gasoline in your car and then just do additives to try to fix the gasoline, right? It's the same thing. Like, you put the wrong gas in your car and you're like, oh, well, I'll just buy another bottle of this and try to take it to fix the gasoline, when you could have just put the right gasoline in your car. That's what we're doing. We're trying to put the right gasoline in, not fix the damage after it's done. But we are fixing the damage after it's done. That's one reason I'm going over lactoferrin here, is it can fix the damage. So I think we're about done. Joe, yes, you can. You can. Let me get back on my screen. Yeah, we're play the go away. Okay. So that's all I have for today. Oh, so for lactoferrin, if those of you are in the Love Your Liver program, you always go into the VIP store if you want to get lactoferrin at your discounted rate by being a member of the Love Your Liver program. If you want to join the Love Your Liver program, go to members.nutritiondetective.com. You get a discount on all of our supplements, and there are supplements available that we don't put on the main store. And then we have the lactoferrin all back for sale. We're going to do our best to make sure that we get it from France and we don't have a supply chain issue, but it's back in the normal store if you want to get it. And yeah, it's good stuff. Just make sure to read the instructions that are linked on the bottle so that you don't take too much too soon. Because when it builds up and when you take lactoferrin, you start making a little bit more bile. And if you leak a little bit more than you get rid of, then you can slowly build up bile in your system and it may not feel good. And then the solution to that, I talk about the solution in the article, which is basically take a break from it, let it kind of fade away. So, oh yeah, Joe, we're working on, actually, Leilani is working on an intro and an outro. You're welcome. We do not consent. You're welcome. We're working on an intro and an outro for the show. So hopefully we'll have that soon. And, I'm working my butt off on the Keystone Minerals, folks. That was not my fault that we had enough. We're running through all the problems that we did not cause with supplement manufacturers. So hopefully we are fixing those issues, but I'm working hard on Keystone Minerals and all sorts of new stuff. So please don't email Julie, folks, asking her when we're going to have these things back in stock. If it's not on the store, it's not on the store. It means we don't have it. There's no, like, don't ask Julie to go check in the back. Don't do that. We don't have a back. We have a storage unit, air conditioned with the supplements in it. There's no back. Julie knows exactly how many we have. So anyway, that's all I got for today. If you want to find lactoferrin, you know where to get it. Hopefully now you see how this connects to toxic bile theory and all the leading causes of death in the United States. And I'm going to go do my inner circle, my video Q&A for the people who are in the Love Your Liver program and they pay some extra to go hear me talk more after this. So have a great day. I will see you next time. Start slow on the lactoferrin and we'll see you. Bye now.